Chapter 21:16. The ghost godchild was too arrogant. He was so arrogant that many young legendary level experts were displeased. The son of war clenched his scimitar and tapped the hilt with his fingertips, but he was still enduring. He would attack when he couldn't. Many of Fanin's followers couldn't hold themselves back either. If they weren't afraid of the great saint behind Gui Shensi, they would have attacked long ago. The one he couldn't tolerate the least was Xiahou Yuan, a true disciple of the Xiahou house. What Ghost Shensi had done was a slap to the Xiahou Sacred Land's face. What would happen to Xiahou He's reputation after this? What would happen to the Xiahou family's reputation? Crack! Xiahou Yuan clenched his fist and said coldly, Gui Shensi, are you trying to use your great saint backing you to make a scene in the saints' meeting ceremony? Or are you trying to court Fanin with your own strength? Gui Shensi smiled evilly and said confidently, Why would I blaspheme the saints' meeting ceremony? I am sincerely pursuing Fairy Fanin. In the past few years, I have been rejected several times to propose marriage. Everyone should know that this time, the heroes of the world bear witness to my sincerity towards Fairy Fanin. This time, I guarantee that if I lose, I will never harass Fairy Fanin again, nor will I use my connections to take revenge. Gui Shensi had the right to be arrogant. He was an upper-level legendary expert. After so many years, other than Xia Jiulong, the Dark Walker, and the two linen-clothed youths, no one could compete with him. No one would dare to attack Gui Shensi unless they were in the upper realm. Xia Jiulong originally wanted to provoke Yi Qinghan into attacking Gui Shensi so that both sides would be injured. Then, he would be able to reap the benefits, so he naturally wouldn't stop Gui Shensi. Nowadays, most of the legendary experts were in the middle level, including Fanin. Lin Wutian wanted to teach Gui Shensi a lesson, but when he saw Yi Qinghan holding his right arm with his left hand, he gently shook his head, not allowing Lin Wutian to do anything. Lin Wutian's strongest move was the Green Lotus Sword Song. If he used it, Xia Jiulong might not be able to survive. However, once he used it, his identity would be exposed. Yi Qinghan didn't want to take the risk. He only hoped that the Dark Walker or the two linen-clothed youths would stop Gui Shensi. Lin Wutian could hold himself back, but Xiahou Yuan couldn't. He drew his sword and pierced through the void, charging towards Gui Shensi. The power of the sword was like a rainbow, tearing through the shackles. A legendary expert was indeed a legendary expert. The moment he made a move, he had the aura of an upper level. The sword chi swayed and pierced Ghost Shensi's throat with an unstoppable force. Whoosh! The divine sword pierced through Gui Shensi's throat, and his body slowly dissipated. There was not even a drop of blood. It was obvious that this was only his afterimage, and Gui Shensi had long since left. Boom! Gui Shensi appeared behind Xiahou Yuan and slammed his palm against his back. Boundless Gui Shensi's power penetrated Xiahou Yuan's back and sent him flying. Poof! Xiahou Yuan coughed up blood and flew several hundred meters away. Just one strike. The difference between their cultivation levels was too great. Xiahou Yuan could not be said to be weak by one major cultivation level. It could only be said that the difference of one major cultivation level was like the difference between heaven and earth. Gui Shensi was as calm as ever, as if he was still standing in the same spot. Hiss! Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. The ghost god's strength was too strong. He was so strong that other legendary experts could not contend against him. Xiahou Zun and Xiahou He's expression turned even uglier. If no one could defeat Gui Shensi today, the Xiahou sacred ground would lose face. The chess saint, who was sitting far away, frowned. He looked at the two young men beside him, and then at Gui Shensi. He could not help but sigh. It would be easy for the two young men to kill Gui Shensi if they worked together. However, if they were to fight alone, they would lose without a doubt. You've gone too far. Boom! The son of war roared. He pulled out his blade and soared into the sky. His battle intent was majestic, like a broken dam, rushing in all directions. Battle symbol art. Whoosh! The blade light tore through the shackles. It was as fast as lightning, and afterimages filled the sky. It was impossible to distinguish between the real body and the afterimages. Shoo! Shoo! Gui Shensi was even faster. Countless afterimages faced off against the afterimages of the Son of War. In an instant, all the afterimages were scattered, and the real body returned. His sharp claws tore through the void and grabbed the Son of War's scimitar. Boom! The two of them clashed. Shockwaves blasted out in all directions, and the earth shook. If it were not for the pressure of a saint, the mountains and rivers would have been lifted. The Son of War was like a god of war. His strength was overwhelming, but he could not move an inch. Instead, Gui Shensi used his divine power and sent him flying with a palm. Not bad. Your speed and strength are enough. It's just that your cultivation level is a little low. Your overall strength is also weak. So what if you've reached the upper level? Gui Shensi stood there with his hands behind his back. He did not move an inch. Since the Son of War had lost, it was even more impossible for the others to fight. Fanine looked around and did not see Yi Qinghan. She clenched her fist, and the string appeared in her hand. She took a deep breath and said calmly, "I'll do it myself." Lin Wutian could see that Fanine could not win against Gui Shensi even if she used all her strength. He stood up with his sword and said firmly, "You're still a martial ant. How can I let you fight a piece of trash? I'm willing to fight for you so that you won't dirty your hands." Whoosh! Lin Wutian's momentum swept the heaven and earth. Thousands of swords bowed to the emperor. The swords in the hands of countless people involuntarily soared into the sky, intertwining with each other. Gui Shensi frowned and looked at Lin Wutian. His hand trembled, and a dark sword hilt appeared. He held the divine sword with his big hand, and a trace of killing intent appeared in his eyes. Lin Wutian slowly walked forward, his footsteps following the rhythm of heaven and earth. The swords in the hands of countless upper-level cultivators trembled and whistled. They wanted to draw their swords and soar into the sky, but they were all suppressed by the upper-level cultivators. Sword chi was gathering, and sword chi filled the air. Lin Wutian stared at Gui Shensi and said coldly, "Destroying the saint's audience ceremony should be a death sentence. Making fun of the saint of sky-reaching cult is also a death sentence." Gui Shensi raised an evil smile and asked disdainfully, "Is that so? But I want to kill you today, and no one can stop me." At this moment, Yi Qinghan could not wait any longer. Lin Wutian could not do anything to Gui Shensi without using the Green Lotus sword song. He could not let Lin Wutian expose his identity. "Stay here and don't go out." Yi Qinghan glanced at Lin Shui indifferently and stepped out of the pavilion. His steps were light and he walked step by step out of the city. "Wutian, step back. It's better to let Master fight this battle." The majestic voice was mighty, and it shook the ears of all the cultivators around. Xiaohe's face was filled with joy. He secretly transmitted a message, "Yi Qinghan, cripple him. Otherwise, I don't know where to put my Xiao clan's face." Yi Qinghan's face was expressionless. He only nodded and stepped into the center of the battlefield. His aura was restrained, but everyone could see that he was a middle-level cultivator. "Who are you?" "I don't kill nameless people," Gui Shensi asked coldly. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan waved his hand to adjust the Yinyang Bagua Taoist robe. He smiled faintly and said, "I'm your father. Did you ask for my permission to marry my wife?" Chapter 21:17. "I'm your father," his words echoed in the air, causing countless young experts to cheer. Yi Qinghan's name had spread far and wide. No matter what he'd done in the past, he was the only one who'd followed Xiaohe to gain enlightenment in the past 15 years. Without Xia Zhilong, perhaps Yi Qinghan was the only one who could defeat Gui Shensi. Ha ha ha! Everyone roared with laughter. Even Xiahou He and Xiahou Supreme were smiling. Yi Qinghan didn't wait for Gui Shensi to explode in anger. He said coldly, "You trampled on the saint's audience ceremony and delayed the auspicious time of the heavens veneration ceremony. You disrespected your seniors and the heavens. Saint He is of high status and power, so she didn't bicker with you. However, I look down on people like you, so I'll teach you a lesson on behalf of the heavens and all the eternal saints." Crack! Crack! Gui Shensi was furious. He clenched his fists and roared hoarsely, "You think you're worthy? You'll know whether I'm worthy or not after we fight. If you want me to use my weapon today, consider it my loss." Yi Qinghan waved his hand and activated the eternal gauntlet. Golden light flowed around his body, merging with his fist. His entire being was one with the city, and his aura was one with the heavens and earth. Once an expert made a move, the truth would be revealed. Yi Qinghan didn't make a move out of jealousy. He knew that Gui Shensi wouldn't dare kidnap Fan Yin in public. He just didn't want Lin Wutian to be exposed. Secondly, he wanted to save face for the Xiahou sacred land. Yi Qinghan raised his head and gave Gui Shensi a provocative look. "Make your move. If I make my move, you won't have the chance to." Gui Shensi laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha, you're the most arrogant person I've ever met. A mere mid-realm cultivator dares to talk to me like that?" Yi Qinghan shook his head and replied indifferently, "No, no, no. There is someone in this world who is much more arrogant and savage than me. I don't dare to disrupt the sage's audience and heaven worship ceremony just because I have a great sage behind me." When Yi Qinghan said this, it made the other sages take a stand. At least Yi Qinghan respected the eternal sages. They also had great sages and sons of the demon god behind them. It was obvious who was superior. Gui Shensi glanced at the sages and saw the dissatisfaction on Sage Yunlong's face. Disrupting the sage's homecoming ceremony was a great disrespect. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had the advantage of time, place, and people. His pressure was growing stronger and stronger. Lightning surrounded his iron fist. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like lightning. His divine power flowed through his legs, and he used his shadowless cloud. His upper realm divine sense controlled everything within 1,000 miles. His golden body was filled with the profoundness of the sage technique. These were all the profoundness he had learned in the past 15 years. Yi Qinghan said no more. He pointed out the evidence of Gui Shensi's crimes. Even if they lost this battle, the great sage of the Ghost God clan would not have the face to seek revenge. Boom! Yi Qinghan stepped forward and pressured Gui Shensi. Woo-woo! Gui Shensi's evil aura soared to the sky. His figure pulled time and space. The air was restless and the wind was strong. The eerie air was flowing as if they had entered hell. Hua! Gui Shensi's 5 claws were like vicious hidden weapons. They turned into streaks of lightning and filled the sky with afterimages. He attacked Yi Qinghan from all directions. His murderous intent was thick. Dark clouds rolled in the sky and lightning raged. Yi Qinghan closed his eyes and channeled his divine sense to the maximum to locate Gui Shensi. His ears were trembling and his eyelids were about to open a few times. Hua 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 hua! Yi Qinghan raised both of his hands and moved the heaven and earth. The starting gesture of the 10-word spell was like that of a saint. Fan Yin and Xia Zhilong were shocked. They did not expect Yi Qinghan to have such a deep understanding of Tao. This guy's progress is too fast. Fan Yin and Xia Zhilong could not accept it. It had only been a few years. Yi Qinghan was crushed by Fan Yin in the past. Now, he had surpassed them. Xia Zhilong could not accept it. How could a mere ant challenge his identity as the most powerful person in the world? Boom! While everyone was still in shock, Gui Shensi could not hold back anymore. His sharp claws grabbed the air and attacked Yi Qinghan from behind. Yi Qinghan seemed to be moving slowly, but in fact, he had already turned around. His right hand grabbed Gui Shenxi's claws and his left hand grabbed Gui Shenxi's arm. His body moved back slightly. Sticky word spell. Boom. Yi Qinghan grabbed Gui Shenxi's sharp claws tightly. The eternal boxing glove ignored the sharpness and viciousness of Gui Shenxi's claws. Yi Qinghan pulled and raised his hand, pinching Gui Shenxi's wrist and pushing it forward. Crack! Gui Shenxi was shocked. He quickly retreated. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would break his arm. Boom! Yi Qinghan pulled Gui Shenxi closer. He let go of his hand and lifted his leg. The speed of the airflow was enough to kill a mid-level master. Gui Shenxi was shocked. He crossed his arms to protect his head and slammed into Yi Qinghan's long leg. Bang! Both sides collided. Shockwaves spread out in all directions. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The powerful Gui Shenxi was pushed back a few hundred meters. He could not stand firm and kept retreating. His feet crushed the stone floor. Whoosh! Holy light shone around them. Many saints released their holy power and protected the area 1,000 meters around the battlefield. Only the area within 1,000 meters was left for the two to fight. Crack crack crack. Gui Shenxi rubbed his hand. He felt like his arm was about to be broken by Yi Qinghan's kick. He stared at Yi Qinghan gloomily. He knew that Yi Qinghan's body was unparalleled. He was already a paragon saint, and with his defense, he could not beat Yi Qinghan without using a weapon. Gui Shenxi reached out and grabbed the black divine sword. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Gui Shenxi's strength was far beyond the younger generation. The only ones who could match him were Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong. At most, the Nightwalker, the judge, and the two linen-clothed youths. There were no more than 10 people. Emperor Feng clenched his fists. Back then, he was also a top existence. However, after 30,000 years of suppression, his cultivation had regressed. If he wanted to catch up, he had to rely on this heaven-worshipping ceremony. He watched the two cast spells. His divine power surged. He wanted to rush up and test himself. Just as everyone was worried, Yi Qinghan smiled. He looked at the divine sword in his opponent's hand without any fear. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan formed seals with his palms. His body emitted the aura of a saint. He was like an old man who had stood in the world for countless years. Xiaohou was pleased. Yi Qinghan did not disappoint him. After 15 years of enlightenment, his strength had increased many times. He was only in the middle level now. Once he reached the upper level, Xia Zhilong and Gui Shenxi might not be his match even if they worked together. This Yi Qinghan already has the aura of a saint. It's just that his realm has not caught up. What a monster! I've lived for so many years, but I've never seen such a miracle. Xiahou Supreme sighed. He was a miniature version of Xiahou He. Many saints thought that Yi Qinghan was Xiahou He's disciple. They couldn't help but look at Xiahou He with envy. How Xiahou's reputation had been preserved. Yi Qinghan's intervention meant that Xiahou He's disciple had stepped in to suppress the troublemakers. The world couldn't say anything about it. They could only say that House Xiahou had many talents, which made them even more proud. Yi Qinghan used Xiahou He's saint technique. Thousands of miles of light shone, dispersing the dark clouds. His long hair danced. His Taoist robe was cold. His battle-intent sword. Gui Shenxi's aura was suppressed. This was a battle between a god and a supreme. He was a god, but Yi Qinghan was a supreme. Chapter 21:18. At this moment, Yi Qinghan had suppressed his realm just like Xiaohou. He had learned 70 to 80% of Xiaohou's saint technique. Even Xia Zhilong was no match for him, let alone Gui Shenxi. This situation was similar to how Yi Qinghan was no match for Xiaohou when Xiaohou suppressed his realm. Gui Shenxi's heart was filled with fear, and his facial muscles were distorted by the strong wind. roar, Gui Shensi didn't dare to let Yi Qinghan gather his strength. He unsheathed his divine sword, and a dark sword light tore through time and space, aiming for Yi Qinghan's throat. Roar! Yi Qinghan waved his hand and formed a tiger shape. His 5 fingers turned into a giant hand that covered the sky and slapped towards Gui Shensi. Boom! The palm carried the aura of Xiaohou City. It was majestic and could not be defied. It was as if a real saint had attacked. Even the experts who were protected by saints felt that their bodies were about to be crushed by Yi Qinghan's palm. Their eyes were filled with fear as they involuntarily retreated. He wasn't a saint, but he was stronger than one. Whoosh! Boom! The 5-fingered palm shattered Gui Shensi's sword energy and directly crushed him. Crack, crack, crack! Gui Shensi was defeated by the majestic force. His legs were twisted and stuck to the ground. He gritted his teeth and resisted. However, a trail of flames appeared on the ground and a chasm appeared outside the Xiaohou city. Ah! Gui Shensi screamed as he saw Yi Qinghan's 5-fingered palm imprint carrying the will of heaven and earth. Even after exhausting all his strength, he couldn't resist Yi Qinghan's palm. His body was pushed back continuously. In the blink of an eye, Yi Qinghan had flattened 1,000 meters away. Yi Qinghan's energy slammed into the barrier. His face was expressionless as he mobilized all the divine energy in his body and punched out again. This time, he turned into a meteor of fire and ruthlessly smashed towards Gui Shensi. The 2 attacks seemed simple, but they had exhausted all of Yi Qinghan's energy. Gui Shensi's hand was broken as he watched Yi Qinghan attack him again. This attack could definitely kill him. 9 Dragons Crown Prince, save me! The ghost Shensi's appearance this time had been invited by Xia Jilong. He had purposely angered Yi Qinghan. Although he had angered Yi Qinghan, the gap between them had widened. Neither side had suffered heavy losses. Whoosh! Xia Jilong's eyes flashed as he waved his hand. The 9 Dragons fan appeared in his hand. His figure spun, and the stars rotated 9 times as he appeared in front of Ghost Shensi. With a wave of his hand, the 9 Dragons fan slashed towards Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan and Xia Jilong were sent flying by the shockwaves and retreated several steps. Crack! After the explosion, the world was originally quiet, but a clear sound broke the silence. Everyone stared at Yi Qinghan because he had broken through the shackles of his realm and successfully stepped into the upper level. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan's aura soared into the sky. His Taoist robe was pulled back, and his eyes were filled with disdain. The saints will filled his eyes as he looked down on all living beings. At this moment, Xia Jilong felt the pressure. His black hair fluttered in the wind as the 2 supreme experts confronted each other. Yi Qinghan, the sage's attainment of the Tao should be celebrated by the heavens and the earth. Isn't it too disrespectful to the sage if you kill him now? Xia Jilong said coldly. Yi Qinghan's body was like a bottomless pit, absorbing the spiritual energy of the heavens and earth. His godly power surged like a boundless ocean. He stared at Xia Jilong and said indifferently, 9 Dragons Crown Prince, your words seem to be biased. Ghost Shensi is arrogant and despotic here, and he blasphemes the saint's prestige and disrespects the heavens. You didn't say anything. The saints have no desires and will not bicker with such ant. I am not a saint, so I naturally have to speak up for Saint He and help him teach this ignorant brat a lesson. Xia Jilong stared at Yi Qinghan and said indifferently, I have never seen him blaspheme a saint. Seeking love is human nature. If the saints of the world bear witness, there will be no regrets. It can even be said that you respect the saints and hope that they bear witness to represent your true love for junior sister Fanine. But you, because of your desire to fight, have delayed the auspicious time to worship the heavens. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Jilong and sneered, I am a saint. Why would I fight with an ant who can't differentiate right from wrong? Both of you, come at me together. If I lose, you can say whatever you want. If I win, there's no need to say anything. Xia Zhilong's eyes flashed with killing intent. But he couldn't afford to lose face by teaming up against one person in front of everyone. Today is the day of Saint He's coronation. I won't bicker with you. If you miss today, I will teach you a lesson, Xia Zhilong said coldly. Yi Qinghan sneered and pointed at Xia Zhilong. If you don't dare to fight, then scram. As for Gui Shensi, he can either kneel down and apologize to Saint He or die. There is no third option. Don't think that just because you have a great saint behind you that you can be arrogant and ignore the might of a saint. Killing a great saint's disciple. Hiss. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Xia Hoha couldn't stay calm. He didn't want Yi Qinghan to provoke such a huge karma because of him. He hurriedly stood up and said, Sect Master Yi, let's forget about it. There's still an hour before the auspicious time to worship the heavens. I don't care anymore. The heavens want to worship the heavens, so let's end it here. Yi Qinghan's cold light pierced through the void. He stared at Gui Shensi behind Xia Zhilong and asked coldly, Gui Shensi, do you know your wrongs? Gui Shensi's hand was twisted. He had been crippled by Yi Qinghan's saint technique and the ancient city's momentum. He hadn't been able to use his cultivation. He struggled to stand up, his eyes full of viciousness. Huff, huff, huff. Gui Shensi's breathing was rapid and his face was pale. The black divine sword in his hand was stabbed into the ground. He wanted to resist but didn't dare because Yi Qinghan's saint technique had reached great perfection. He was no different from a saint, just not in the saint realm. Gui Shensi ignored Yi Qinghan and faced Xia Hoa, kneeling on one knee and saying sincerely, Saint He, this junior was too eager to court your love. This junior knows his wrongs. This apology saved the Xiaoho sacred ground's face. Xia Hoa's expression also changed. Since Gui Shensi had apologized, he couldn't pursue the matter any further. He went with the flow and said, Young people don't know their place. This saint can't take it to heart. This matter ends here. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Zhilong and Gui Shensi. He didn't want to take action this time, but he had to. Seeing that the matter was settled, he bowed slightly to the saints and quietly left. Everyone had decided in their hearts that Xia Zhilong might not be the first among the younger generation. Fan Yin was the most excited. He took a deep breath and looked at Yi Qinghan's back as he left. He put away the string of strings and turned to leave. The audience ceremony had been delayed. Xiaoho Supreme announced that the ceremony would begin immediately. Xiaoho stood up and raised his cup to toast the heavens. Whoosh! Everyone raised their cups in unison. Everyone in the Kuang sect was sincere and determined. They all wanted to be blessed by the heavens. The saint technique was 1 in 10,000. But what if they were chosen? Chapter 21:19. Yi Qinghan left. He didn't participate in the heaven veneration ceremony because he knew that the fortune he had obtained was already the best. There was no point in staying any longer. He might as well stand at the first-person point of view and observe the expressions of the heroes of the world. It was the first time for many of the Kuang sect members to participate, so they were looking forward to it. Jiang Jingtian and Gu Qingyu did not get any benefits the first time they participated. If they could not get anything this time, their fates would be sealed. Becoming a saint would be their end. Ghost Shensi's face was full of unwillingness. He thought he could come here to show off, but he had only been arrogant for a while before his face was slapped swollen by Yi Qinghan. However, he was glad that today was Xiaoho He's audience ceremony and heaven worship ceremony. Otherwise, Yi Qinghan would not care whether he was a descendant of the supreme sage or not. Xia Zhilong took a deep breath. It was not that he did not want to fight, but he could not afford to lose face. Since Xia Zhilong didn't make a move, the battle had to end. Thus, the heaven-worshipping ceremony began. There was no need for the audience. However, Xiaohoha didn't lose face because Yi Qinghan had earned it back. The ghost Shensi knelt on one knee and apologized. Yi Qinghan stood on a tall building, looking down at the world. He handed Xuelin a wine cup, then took out a jar of wine and said in a low voice, "The ceremony is very important. Although the heavens are heartless and the great path is traceless, the heavens are still there, and the great path is watching the world. Raise your cup to the heavens, and what you get will depend on the will of the heavens." Xuelin nodded seriously. She took the full cup and raised it above her head, looking at Xiaohoha expectantly. Xiaohoha stood up, raised his cup to the heavens, and said respectfully, "Thank the heavens for recognizing me. I have cultivated for more than 1,000,000 years and have officially become a saint. This first cup of wine is to the heavens." Whoosh! The wine spilled out, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. First, to the heavens. Everyone splashed the wine respectfully. Second, to the great path. Xiaohoha raised his cup again, and everyone followed. Even a saint would not dare to blaspheme the ceremony. Third, to the ancient capital of Xiaohoha. Xiaohoha bowed respectfully to the ancient capital, his face full of respect. Whoosh! The ancient city seemed to have come to life. It was dignified and heavy, and the vicissitudes of time covered the world. Golden light enveloped it, and it was as if the aura of a saint had erupted. All the spirits followed, and so did Xuelin. She spilled the wine in her cup, and her eyes were full of respect. However, there were also many doubts in the corners of her eyes, and even some resentment. If worshipping the heavens is useful, why was my Daluo astral realm razed to the ground and all living beings exterminated? Xuelin was not reconciled. She was also very confused. What was the use of this ceremony? Whoosh! At this moment, light radiated in all directions. Holy light bathed the entire Xiaoho ancient capital and the area outside the city. The further one went, the dimmer the light became. The heavens bestowed opportunities. Everyone had their own opportunities. Fate was determined by the heavens. But Xuelin's clear eyes dimmed. She didn't get anything. It was as if God was punishing her for disrespecting God. Yi Qinghan glanced at Lian Xue's face from the corner of his eyes. His vigorous face revealed a trace of helplessness, and a trace of sadness flashed through his eyes. This girl's temperament was still too simple. How could the heavens care about everything? Everything had its order and cause. At this moment, dragons and phoenixes danced in the sky. Strange phenomena appeared at the same time. The sun, the moon, and the stars appeared together in the Milky Way. Everyone fell silent. Everyone was comprehending the blessing from the heavens. Some were ecstatic, some were gloomy, and some were shocked. Joy, anger, sorrow, and joy were all different. Yi Qinghan's divine sense and eyes captured everyone's expressions. The corner of his mouth curled up slightly as if he could see through everyone's minds. The insane sex expressions were not bad. It seemed that their opportunities were not small. Finally, Yi Qinghan stared at Emperor Feng and Gu Qingyu. The two of them didn't like to show their emotions, but at this moment, they were both shocked and ecstatic. This heaven-bestowed opportunity must have made them unable to remain calm. Yi Qinghan had never doubted Gu Qingyu and Emperor Feng's talents. They only needed opportunities. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He continued to search for the insane sex expressions. Di Longtian, Jiang Jingtian, Li Feng, everyone's expressions represented joy. He couldn't help but nod. It seems that the insane sex opportunity has come. I planted the seed and let Xiaoho he become a saint. In the end, Xiaoho he started the ceremony and bestowed the best results to the insane sect. The order of cause and effect in this world is really mysterious. Yi Qinghan sighed softly. He couldn't understand the trajectory of this world. Half a day later, Xiaoho he's divine light dissipated. His aura was more restrained. The pressure was invisible, but it made the saints feel pressured. Whoosh! Xiahou he stood up and bowed to the people, thanking them for coming to pray. All the people knelt down, not daring to accept the saint's greeting. Ches Venerable smiled. He wasn't jealous of Xiahou he's opportunity. He only admired him from the bottom of his heart. For someone who had just become a saint to have such achievements, he must be qualified to bear this fruit. The two young men next to Ches Venerable bowed and left without alerting anyone. Yi Qinghan looked at the two young men and was curious about their identities. He was even more curious about why the Ches Venerable was so close to them. They must be related to the Nightwalker judgment. Although I can't feel their true strength, I can imagine that if they use all their strength, they can definitely be compared to Gui Shensi. They might even be on par with me. Yi Qinghan looked at the back of the young men and didn't ask too much. The Ches Venerable didn't enter the insane sect's courtyard, which meant that he was willing to keep secrets for himself. So, he should keep secrets for him too. Just as everyone was about to leave, Gui Shensi couldn't take this lying down. He raised his head and glared at Yi Qinghan's loft. Yi Qinghan, the day my godly ancestor comes out of seclusion is the day you die. I will ask for the great sage's decree to kill you. Boom. He didn't hide his roar at all. Everyone heard it. Yi Qinghan didn't hide his figure. He stood on the tall pavilion and looked down at everyone. He looked at Gui Shensi's ferocious face with a smile. He didn't ask for anything and didn't even have a trace of anger. It was as if he had really become a saint. I'll wait for you, Yi Qinghan replied calmly. But remember, the next time you see Senior Sister Fanning, please stay away and don't disturb her. This is your promise and the rule I set for you. His voice was calm, but it was filled with determination and order. It didn't allow Gui Shensi to disobey. His deep voice pierced through the clouds and traveled thousands of miles. Everyone could hear it. Gulp! Gui Shensi's eyes were filled with anger. He turned to look at Xia Jiulong. It was all because of Xia Jiulong that he went for wool and came home shorn. Was Xia Jiulong not going to do anything now? Whoosh! Xia Jiulong opened his 9-dragon fan, and the dragon's aura was fully displayed. The golden dragon swam around his saint dragon robe. He took a step forward and said, "Since the heaven-worshipping ceremony is over, I accept your challenge. If you win, you set the rules. If you lose, I will set the rules." Xia Jiulong had declared war in front of all the saints. Back then, after the Ches saints' heaven worship ceremony, the two of them had fought. However, at that time, Yi Qinghan's strength was far inferior to Xia Jiulong's. Now, Yi Qinghan might not necessarily lose to him. Chapter 21-20. Xia Jiulong declared the battle in a domineering manner. He wanted the world to witness that no one could take away his number one position. Yi Qinghan stood in the pavilion and did not speak for a long time. He did not say whether he would accept the challenge or not. At this time, everyone was looking forward to this battle. They were so excited that they felt like they were the main character and should be the one to accept the challenge. Xuelin looked up at the emotionless Yi Qinghan and asked curiously, "Uncle Yi, are you not going to accept the challenge?" Yi Qinghan was stunned for a moment, then clenched his fist. Seeing that many people in the Holy Empire were staring at him and Xuelin, he took a deep breath, licked his white teeth and said, "Come down with me." Then, Yi Qinghan walked down the pavilion with Xuelin, making everyone even more anxious. Do you think Yi Qinghan will accept the challenge? With his strength, he can definitely compete with the 9 Dragons Crown Prince. He defeated Gui Shensi in one move. Even Xia Jiulong might not be able to defeat such an expert in one move. So I think even if Yi Qinghan does not accept the challenge, it is definitely not because he is afraid of him. It is very likely that he does not want to reveal too much. Don't talk so much nonsense. If he does not fight today, it means that he does not dare to fight. The Crown Prince is recognized as the #1 in the world. For so many years, no one has ever shaken his throne. Today, Yi Qinghan probably can't do it, or else he would have already made his move. Some people were unhappy with Xia Zhilong and were willing to speak up for Yi Qinghan. However, there were also a large number of experts who were fans of Xia Zhilong and hoped that Xia Zhilong would defeat Yi Qinghan. Both sides argued endlessly, but the number of people was about the same. Gui Shenxi's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. He still had many powerful trump cards that he had not revealed. He had underestimated his opponent, otherwise he would not have been defeated in one move. He wanted to regain his face and fight again. Recalling Yi Qinghan's attack, Gui Shenxi felt that he still had a chance of winning. Let me fight him again. I don't believe he can defeat me in one move, Gui Shenxi said coldly. Xia Zhilong turned his head to look at Gui Shenxi. He gently fanned the 9-dragon fan and shook his head. You don't have the Eternal Saint robe or the Eternal Saint weapon. How are you going to fight him? It's not that I'm looking down on you, it's just that you don't have enough foundation. Gui Shenxi exhaled heavily and comforted himself. He thought to himself, that's right, he's only relying on the Yinyang Bagua Taoist robe and the eternal gloves. When I go back, I must ask the God Ancestor to help me refine the eternal sacred weapon and the eternal sacred robe. It's best if you take back your face this time. The discussion became louder and louder. Yi Qinghan had not appeared yet, but some people hid in the crowd and cursed loudly. They were all cursing Yi Qinghan, thinking that he was too arrogant. He should have just said whether he wanted to fight or not. He was acting so mysterious like a saint. Xia Zhilong was not in a hurry, because he had fought Yi Qinghan so many times. He knew that Yi Qinghan would not give up because of fear. Either he did not want to fight today, or he was afraid that Xia Zhilong would capture Lin Shui, so he had to give up this battle. Xia Zhilong smiled. He was confident that if he fought, he could win. If he did not fight, he would win the momentum and the overall situation. The throne would always be his. At this moment, Yi Qinghan stepped out of the city wall with Lin Shui. His slender figure cast a long shadow under the sunlight. The short and thin Lin Shui followed closely behind Yi Qinghan. She stared at Xia Zhilong with her big eyes. Maybe it was because of her bloodline, but when she saw Xia Zhilong, her eyes were full of anger and resentment. She wanted to kill him. Boom! Heaven and earth roared. Dark clouds covered the sky and lightning flashed. Murderous intent filled the air. Thousands of heroes gathered outside the city. The saints stood proudly in their places. They all wanted to see if the throne would change hands today. The Cloud Dragon Sage wanted Yi Qinghan dead all the time. He could not fight in front of everyone. Otherwise, the Heavenly Grandmaster Sage would kill him. Therefore, he could only hope that Xia Zhilong would kill Yi Qinghan today. Zhilong, you must kill Yi Qinghan today. Even if you have to team up with the son of the Ghost God, the honor of being first is not important. Otherwise, you will not have a chance, the Cloud Dragon Sage reminded. Xia Zhilong gently fanned the 9-dragon fan. He stared at Yi Qinghan, who was walking out of the city. He nodded slightly and secretly sent a voice transmission, "Uncle, please capture Lin Shui behind him. She is the princess of the Daluo astral realm. The starry chessboard is in her hands." The Cloud Dragon Sage only noticed Lin Shui now. His eyes flashed. The starry chessboard was a supreme saint artifact. If someone could control it, even if they could not be compared to the Saint Lord, they would be much stronger than other eternal saints. Crack! The Cloud Dragon Sage took a deep breath and nodded fiercely. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan stirred up the momentum of heaven and earth. He took Lin Shui directly to the eternal saint of the Shi sacred ground. Yar Saint was right beside him. The eternal saint of the Shi sacred ground was a middle-aged man. He had blonde hair and blue eyes. He was fundamentally different from the Easterners. He looked slightly rougher. Yi Qinghan bowed slightly and said, "Greetings, Saint. I am Yi Qinghan. This time, I want to go to the Shi sacred ground to propose marriage. I have prepared a big gift. It is our first time meeting. I hope you can take care of me." The Eternal Saint was the son of the Emperor Saint of the Shi sacred ground. He was also Yar Saint's grandfather. Yar Saint had already told him about Yi Qinghan's purpose, so he was not too surprised. He just nodded gently and said, "We can talk about Yar later. I can't make the decision. Let's talk about it when you arrive at the Shi sacred ground. At least I will not object." Yi Qinghan smiled and said, "Thank you, Senior. I will accept the challenge today. Please take care of this child for me. Don't let a thief take her away." Whoosh! Yi Qinghan did not hide anything and directly agreed to the challenge. He was just giving some instructions. When Xia Zhilong heard Yi Qinghan's words, he clenched his 9-dragon fan and took a few steps back. He signaled Gue Shensi with his eyes and secretly said, "Find a chance to kill him later. Don't worry too much. Saints can't intervene. The Cloud Dragon Sage will arrange everything." Gue Shensi was stunned. He did not expect Xia Zhilong to not have the confidence to defeat Yi Qinghan. He wanted the two of them to work together and launch a sneak attack. "Okay, as long as you can bear the blame," Gue Shensi replied calmly. Xia Zhilong smiled confidently. The title of the Holy Master was enough to make the Heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage compromise. As for the Shi sacred ground, they were not married yet. They would not work together with the Heavenly Grand Master Grand Sage for Yi Qinghan. The Chess Saint and Saint, he looked at Xia Zhilong, Gue Shensi, and Yi Qinghan seriously. They were the three strongest of the younger generation. Only the Dark Walker Judge was not here. Yi Qinghan is at a disadvantage. Looking at Xia Zhilong and Gue Shensi's expressions, it seems like they are going to work together. He can't fight against them. Saint He, you are the host. Think of a way to stop this battle. The Chess Saint reminded in a low voice. Xia Hoha frowned and was very anxious. He clenched his fist. He could naturally see that Gue Shensi and Xia Zhilong were up to no good. Just as Xia Hoha was about to stop them, Yi Qinghan's figure flashed and appeared in the center of the battlefield. His divine robe was cold and his aura was strong. He waved his hand and held it in his hand. He pointed at Xia Zhilong and said, "The number 1 position of the younger generation has changed hands today." Chapter 21-21. Yi Qinghan pointed his long saber in response. Both sides had agreed to fight, and no one could stop them. Xiaoho he was a step too late. This was a great battle for the number 1 position in the world, a battle of supremes. The world's heroes were shining brightly as they looked into the distance. It seemed even livelier than the heaven worship ceremony. Some people cheered for Yi Qinghan, representing the grassroots. They hoped that they could be like Yi Qinghan, break the shackles, and surpass everything. Of course, more people were loyal to the emperor. They did not want the legend to be broken by a talent from a small domain. The group was getting bigger and bigger. Even the experts of the sacred ground had to take side. The people of the Kuang sect stood neatly on the side of the Shi sacred ground. They looked calm, but in fact they were holding divine weapons in both hands, afraid that Yi Qinghan would be attacked. This time, the battlefield was enlarged by hundreds of times. Everything within a radius of 100 miles was the battlefield. Several experts stood guard in all directions to prevent the battle between the two from affecting the innocent. Boom! Yi Qinghan stabbed his saber into the ground and stared at Xia Zhilong. Obviously, he was not going to use his weapon at the beginning. Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Xia Zhilong shook the 9-dragon fan. His breathing was calm, but the light in his eyes was scorching and crazy. His fingertips trembled slightly, and the 9-dragon fan was hidden in his body. I will fight you fairly. I will not take advantage of you. Today, I will rely on myself to suppress you, Xia Zhilong replied confidently. Yi Qinghan withdrew the eternal glove as a faint smile appeared on his face. His deep and hoarse voice filled the surroundings. Today, one of us will leave lying down. Life or death, Xia Zhilong said coldly with murderous intent. Yi Qinghan looked at Xia Zhilong's murderous face and smiled indifferently. He did not want to kill Xia Zhilong, nor did he want to defeat him completely. Such an enemy was much easier to deal with than an eternal saint. As long as he gave Yunlong Saint a little hope, he would not personally take action, and he would have enough time to step into the eternal saint realm. Then let's begin. Yi Qinghan's eyes shone brightly. He raised his hands slightly and performed the 10-word spell of Tai Chi Immortal Cannon. He controlled the power of heaven and earth, waiting for Xia Zhilong's attack. Xia Zhilong's aura fluctuated. Billions of stars appeared in the sky, and countless stars surrounded his golden body. The power of the stars was dense. He had already cultivated the art of stars to the 33rd form, and his strength had increased by 100-fold. No wonder he was so confident. Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes as he looked at Xia Zhilong. He knew that it was impossible for him to win against Xia Zhilong with just the Taiji Immortal Codex. After all, his cultivation of the Taiji Immortal Codex was only half-baked. His strength was far from Xia Zhilong's grand completion level. His aura changed again as he activated his saint technique. A vigorous and ancient aura filled the sky. It was as if a saint had descended to the world. The ancient Xiahou Gu was augmented by his golden body. The majestic golden body transformed into a god of war, radiating divine light in all directions. The saint's divine ability tore through space and time, and the mystical mysteries condensed into a divine dragon dancing in the air. Yi Qinghan's draconic aura became even stronger and purer than Xia Zhilong's. Yi Qinghan had the bloodline of a heavenly dragon, a direct descendant of the eternal holy dragon. Even though he was still a young dragon, his draconic aura was not weak. What a pure draconic aura! This Yi Qinghan can't be the holy dragon's son, right? Over 20 saints exchanged astonished glances. Even the Cloud Dragon Sage was astonished. The current Yi Qinghan was no longer the same as before. He was definitely not an ant that could be slaughtered by anyone. The Cloud Dragon Sage's killing intent grew even stronger as he thought to himself, this guy must not be left alive. Otherwise, even if I were to make a move personally, I might not be able to kill him, let alone Zhilong. Boom! Just as everyone was feeling astonished, Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong crushed the ground at the same time and soared into the sky. Waving their palms, they controlled the world's great Tao and mystical abilities. Their palms collided, and the air currents instantly gushed out over 100 li, smashing into the saint's barrier. Boom boom boom! Hua hua hua! The duo's speed had already surpassed the limits, and their afterimages could even shatter space. They were just like real people, and their killing prowess was extremely strong. Swoosh 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 swoosh! The two of them leaped into the air, casually gathering air to form blades. The sharpness of their blades was not inferior to superior divine weapons, and in the blink of an eye, they had launched over 1,000 attacks. Everyone's faces turned numb, and goosebumps broke out all over their bodies. Their blood boiled, and they wished they could join in the fight. Boom! The two of them struck out with their elbows, and the absolute saint golden body clashed against the unparalleled dragon physique. The phantom image of a sacred dragon appeared behind them, roaring furiously. Kill! With a furious roar, the two of them went all out. They activated their saint techniques, and they had reached the point of perfection. Their battle cries shook the sky, like 10,000 horses galloping. The sacred dragon robe and the Yinyang 8 trigrams Taoist robe were both extremely precious high-grade eternal divine robes, and their defensive prowess was extremely abnormal. However, at this moment, their blood splattered across the sky, and the bones between their thumb and forefinger were shattered. Their bodies were bathed in golden blood. The huge hand that covered the sky suppressed the heavens, cutting off the mountains and rivers. It was even impossible to tell which one was Yi Qinghan and which one was Xia Jiulong. Astral Techniques 33rd Move, Astral Convergence, Heaven's Severing Palm. Hua! The stars turned into a huge hand, and 10,000 stars flashed, turning into a blade that cut through the void and slashed toward Yi Qinghan. Wherever it passed, everything was destroyed, and the afterimages turned into nothingness. The saint force crashed into the saint boundary, and the boundary shook. Yi Qinghan stood on the ground with his back facing the ancient city. He put his palms together, crossed them, and pulled them apart in front of his forehead. Mysterious runes shot out from his body. Saint technique, heaven and earth convergence, all techniques descend. Divine powers appear. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. At this moment, Yi Qinghan used thousands of secret techniques, all of which were saint divine powers. He controlled the power of heaven and earth, and it was as if thousands of Yi Qinghan were suppressing Xia Jiulong at the same time. Each of the clones had terrifying offensive power, and the space-time was distorted as if it would be crushed at any time. Boom! Boom! Swoosh! Yi Qinghan's powerful attacks crashed into the heaven's severing palm, and they were broken continuously. They could not stop Xia Jiulong's power at all. One attack was broken, two more after 800 attacks. Yi Qinghan's divine power kept pouring out, and Xia Jiulong's attack was almost worn down. When all of the clones were broken, Xia Jiulong's attack hit the ground and the city shook. However, it did not hurt Yi Qinghan at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! Both of them were breathing rapidly, and neither could do anything to the other. Fan Yin, who was standing in the distance, was more excited and nervous than anyone else. Only she knew how strong Xia Jiulong was. She had never won against him before. She did not expect her junior brother to be able to fight him to a standstill. Gui Shensi was already gathering his qi, waiting for an opportunity. However, Yi Qinghan still had 50% of his strength, so he did not dare to act rashly. If his first attack failed, there would be no next time. Xia Jiulong did not expect his strongest attack to fail to break through Yi Qinghan's defense. He clenched his fists, and his palms formed another seal. 9 divine dragons coiled around him, and his aura soared. Roar! The divine dragons roared, crushing the will of all living beings. Roar! Roar! At this moment, Yi Qinghan transformed into a divine dragon. Using the divine dragon in his sea of consciousness, he expanded infinitely and broke through the sage's barrier, looking down on all living beings. Ant! He roared, as if he did not even put the sage in his eyes. Whoosh! Everyone exclaimed, and they frantically fled. The sage's barrier was no longer effective. Stop! Do you too want to destroy all living beings and become enemies with the world? Xiahou he angrily rebuked. This was his grand audience. If a one-sided massacre happened, he would have nowhere to put his old face. Pull them apart. Cloud Dragon Sage, you take care of the 9 dragons, Crown Prince. Leave Sect Master Yi to me, Xiahou Supreme said in a deep voice. Whoosh! Whoosh! The sage personally took action. Drawing the sky as a prison, Xiahou Supreme captured Yi Qinghan alive, suppressing his dragon body, and finally imprisoning him. Cloud Dragon Sage had no choice but to take action to suppress Xia Jiulong. Some of the lower realm cultivators were so scared that they wet their pants. The two's auras were too strong, just like sages. Once they started fighting, These lower and middle realm cultivators would definitely become cannon fodder. The world fell into a dead silence, afraid that the two sages would not be able to suppress these two monsters. Yi Qinghan struggled for a moment. He was ultimately not a sage. Xiahou Supreme's will was comparable to the heavens, and he could not go against it. Chapter 21-22. Xia Zhilong was unwilling to give up, but the Cloud Dragon Sage had already made his move. Even if he wanted to resist, he could only retract his aura. The Cloud Dragon Sage glanced at him coldly, then stared at Yi Qinghan. He said hoarsely, "I didn't expect you to be a descendant of the Divine Dragon. You're no different from us humans." Xiahou Zhizun also released him. Yi Qinghan exhaled and replied calmly, "Cloud Dragon Sage, what do you mean? Are you saying that the 9 dragons' crown prince can transform into a divine dragon, but I can't? If I do, I'm no longer a human?" The Cloud Dragon Sage replied indifferently, "You can transform, but I'm not so stupid that I can't tell the difference. You clearly transformed into your original body. I can guarantee that the Divine Dragon is your original body. You're not from this small domain, but a remnant of the coiling dragon realm, the descendant of the Divine Dragon." Just one sentence was enough to sentence Yi Qinghan to death. Yi Qinghan sneered in disdain. "So what if you're a sage? In this day and age, you can still suppress others with your status. You can go and ask the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage if I'm the Holy Dragon of the Coiling Dragon Realm. Don't think that you can spout nonsense just because you're a sage. I can't beat you in terms of strength, but I can convince you in terms of logic," Yi Qinghan said in a low voice, neither servile nor overbearing. In this world, who would dare to talk to a sage alone with such an attitude? Xia Zhilong was strong enough and Gui Shenxi was arrogant enough, but they definitely wouldn't dare to talk back to a sage alone. The Cloud Dragon Sage couldn't directly kill Yi Qinghan. The Grandmaster Grand Sage alone was enough to tie him down. If he killed Yi Qinghan without reason, the Grandmaster Grand Sage could play him to death. The Cloud Dragon Sage looked at the other Eternal Sages, but none of them sided with him. They didn't help either side. Some deliberately talked to Xiahou He and chose to ignore them. Yi Qinghan snorted, unwilling to speak with the Cloud Dragon Sage. However, his sacred dragon bloodline was indeed suspicious. After all, there was an eternal sacred dragon bloodline hidden in his sea of consciousness. Xia Zhilong was indignant. He had wanted to use his immortal sealing imprint to directly touch Yi Qinghan, but he had broken the sage's enchantment in the early stages of the battle. The sage had no choice but to intervene, so this battle could not continue. "Yi Qinghan, I'll spare your life today for the sake of the sage. The next time we meet, I'll definitely kill you," Xia Zhilong said coldly. Gui Shenxi said coldly, "That's what I wanted to say as well. 100 years later, my godly ancestor will come out of seclusion and announce to the world. Let's see if you dare to come." 100 years was neither long nor short. For many people, 100 years would pass in the blink of an eye. However, for Yi Qinghan, who was racing against time, 100 years was enough for him to stabilize his position in the upper level. He could even reach the middle or peak of the upper level. His cultivation was not comparable to a sage's, but he could easily kill anyone below the sage's level. 100 years. I'll accept the challenge, but the location will not be at the grand ceremony of the great sage. It will be in the snowfield of Beijiang. If you're interested, you can come. Of course, you can join forces with the 9 dragons' crown prince, Yi Qinghan said lightly. Strong enough. No one laughed at Yi Qinghan for bragging. Who could fight with Xia Zhilong to this extent? Only Yi Qinghan. Xia Zhilong's face was calm, but his heart was raging with murderous intent. Ever since Yi Qinghan appeared in the outside world, he had fought with Xia Zhilong no less than 5 times. However, Xia Zhilong had never gained an advantage. Today, he had even lost face. How could Xia Zhilong not be angry? Beijiang Snowfield, Jade Snow Peak. 100 years later, I'll wait for you there. I don't need anyone to interfere. Only one of us can walk out of Jade Snow Peak. The other will be buried in Jade Snow Peak, Xia Zhilong said coldly. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently and turned to leave. The wounds on his body quickly healed, and his Taoist robe returned to normal. His aura was restrained. Although the Taoist robe was ugly, it was very useful. Whoosh! The Taoist robe quickly disappeared. Yi Qinghan's robe was as white as snow. His strong and handsome face was enough to drive all the female cultivators crazy. Fanning pouted and snorted, "Arrogant! Show off!" Woo-woo! The heroes of the world cheered and the female cultivators screamed. They had become Yi Qinghan's most fervent fans. Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing stood beside Wu Zhenjuan with smiles on their faces. They were filled with happiness and adoration. They were not worried because Yi Qinghan had become strong. This feeling would not change even if the world changed. Wu Zhenjuan's white hair fluttered in the wind. He glanced at his two daughters and sighed. He was a saint and could not see through Yi Qinghan's life trajectory. However, he could still see the life trajectories of his two daughters. Their lives should not have appeared in this world. Even if they did, there would still be a great calamity in their lives. If they could not avoid it, their souls would be destroyed forever. Even a saint like him could not save them. The two of you stay away from Yi Qinghan. His cultivation has not reached the great saint realm. He has no right to marry my daughters. You can't even see them. Wu Zhenjuan said coldly. Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing were shocked. They did not think that Wu Zhenjuan's attitude would change so quickly. Your calamity is getting closer and closer. You are close to death. If you want to live, leave him. This is the only way. Wu Zhenjuan said indifferently. He did not give the two any room for discussion. Finally, he said firmly, "There is no room for discussion. I am your father. I don't care about your past lives. In this life, you are my daughters. I will protect you." Emperor Yi and Bai Shaoxing's expressions changed. They could feel Wu Zhenjuan's fatherly love. They did not want to make things difficult for him. They nodded and said in unison, "We will listen to father. I believe that he can reach the great saint realm. If you die because of Yi Qinghan, then you'll truly die and lose him forever. Even if he cultivates to the great sage realm, he won't be able to change anything. Instead, he'll feel even more despair. As for him, if his destiny is good enough, he can reach the peak even without you two. Your feelings are there, and they won't change. For him, for you two, go back and cultivate in peace. Until you reach the saint realm, you're not allowed to come out." Emperor Yi smiled bitterly. It seemed that Wu Zhenjuan had made up his mind. He did not want to be entangled with this matter. He did not want to lose this fatherly love. Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan looked at each other. Their eyes were filled with reluctance to part, and all the words they wanted to say were contained in their gaze. Yi Qinghan understood what he was thinking. He nodded at Emperor Yi and transmitted his voice to him, saying, "You don't have to go against his wishes. I will provide you with celestial pills that will allow you to advance to the saint plane. Cultivate in peace and don't worry about anything." Emperor Yi pursed his lips and nodded seriously. Wu Zhenjuan was close to Emperor Yi and could definitely intercept Yi Qinghan's message. Hearing Yi Qinghan's words, he nodded with satisfaction. Chapter 21-23. The experts from all sides quickly dispersed. Only the chess saint was still waiting. Yi Qinghan hurriedly said to Gu Qingyu and the others, "Follow the chess saint back. After returning, immediately go into seclusion to comprehend the blessings of heaven. Don't come out unless something major happens." "Okay." Gu Qingyu, Jiang Jingtian, and the others cupped their fists and said. The chess saint nodded to Yi Qinghan and secretly transmitted his voice, "Be careful. There is no turning back for you and the Holy Empire. I can't help you much. You can only rely on yourself." Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and did not reply. He just bowed and thanked him. Soon, the chess saint took everyone from the insane sect away. When the Cloud Dragon Sage saw Yi Qinghan and the eternal saint of the Oshi sacred ground gathering, he knew that there was no chance, so he returned to the Holy Empire with Xia Jielong. Gue Shensi left with the experts of the Gue Shen clan. Xiahou ancient city quickly quieted down. Xiahou he looked at Yi Qinghan gratefully and said with a wry smile, "I'm really sorry. It was this old man who caused you to offend two young sovereigns at the same time." Yi Qinghan shrugged indifferently and replied, "You're too polite, sage he. This matter has nothing to do with you. Even if it wasn't for you, I would have taken action today. After all, Fan Yin is my senior sister. Kid, you still have some conscience. I thought you would hide and watch the show." Fan Yin reprimanded in a bad mood. Yi Qinghan smiled slightly and said faintly, "How can that be? How can I bear to let such a beautiful senior sister be defiled by a bastard?" Fan Yin snorted and said, "You're so poor. If Gue Shensi really gets the great sage's decree to kill you this time, even the saints can't protect you. I'd better go back and ask the old man to get you a protective talisman." After saying that, Fan Yin turned and left with a smile on her face. Yi Qinghan smiled as he watched her leave under the protection of the three deans. Then, he bowed to Xiahou He and Xiahou Zhizun and left with the eternal saint of the Oshi Holy Land. The eternal saint personally took action. He led Yarsheng, Fan Yin, and Yi Qinghan into the void. Their speed was much faster than Yi Qinghan's forbidden technique. It would take a peak eternal saint a year to travel from the Xiahou sacred land to the edge of the Oshi sacred land, traversing countless powerful sects and sacred lands. The holy land of Oshi was vast and boundless, but it was rather lacking in resources. Most of it was barren mountain ranges, but it was too big, so big that it was comparable to the territory of 2 or 3 holy empires. It was precisely because there was a large area of barren mortal land here that the Holy Empire had not made a move for a long time, and the Holy Land of Oshi could stand proudly to this day. The eternal saint of the Oshi Holy Land took the 3 of them and rushed to the Oshi Holy Land for a year before stopping. Saints also needed to rest. Let's take a walk and see the territory of the Oshi Holy Land. It's also a good opportunity for you to see the local customs of the Oshi Holy Land," the middle-aged saint said in a deep voice. The 4 of them chatted along the way. Yi Qinghan learned that this saint was Yarsheng's 6th-generation grandfather. He was known as the Saint of Light. He controlled the light element and was especially good at controlling time and space. The Oshi Holy Land had 4 eternal saints and 1 absolute saint. Among them, the 4 eternal saints inherited the absolute saint's 4 great holy techniques, namely light, love, life, and power. The most powerful one was the Saint of Power, but the most terrifying one was the Goddess of Love. This person could control the souls of all living beings. As long as they looked into her eyes, she could make the eternal saint self-destruct. However, she had never used the highest level of this holy technique because it was at the cost of her life origin. The 4 eternal saints were the direct descendants of the absolute saint. They didn't have a good relationship, but once there was an invasion from outside, they would definitely unite against it. Yi Qinghan had a general understanding of the Oshi Holy Land, but if he wanted Lin Wutian to successfully marry Yarsheng, he still needed to have a systematic understanding of the Oshi Holy Land. He needed to thoroughly understand the customs of the Oshi Holy Land. Otherwise, let alone seeing the Absolute Saint, it would be good enough if he could enter the Absolute Saint's city of the Oshi Holy Land. Everywhere they went, Yarsheng would explain the customs of the place and how the love between men and women was tested. Lin Wutian and Yi Qinghan listened to her explanation tirelessly. Everywhere they went, they would gain more knowledge. However, there were many places in the Oshi Holy Land where the resources were not even as good as the small domain world. Mortals could be seen everywhere. When they saw the cultivators, their eyes were full of awe and yearning. Time flew by like a shuttle, as fast as flowing water. In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. The four of them walked through about 100 cities and crossed the distance of about 2 ordinary Holy Land. Finally, they entered the bustling world of cultivators. Their cultivation methods were different from those of the East. The East mainly cultivated the soul and the physical body, while the Oshi Holy Land mainly cultivated the mind. However, they were different methods to achieve the same result. In the end, what they comprehended was always the Great Path and the Law. It was hard to say who was more advanced, but in the early stage of cultivation, the Eastern cultivators were always stronger. This is the territory of the goddess of love. I will take you to visit her first and make arrangements in advance. If she can agree to let the Holy Land's imperial saintess marry to the East, this matter will be half successful. If she doesn't agree, your matter will basically be impossible. The Saint of Light said with certainty, marrying an Emperor's saintess is a very important matter. Throughout the generations, the Emperor's saintesses have never been married to the East. This seems to be a custom and a promise. This is your first time, so I can't give you a definite answer. Yar Saint also looked nervous. The imperial saintess had her own choice when marrying, but before, she had chosen the young masters of the Oshi Holy Land. But now, she had chosen an Eastern cultivator, and not someone from a top Holy Land. She did not have much confidence. She could only ask for the support of the four saints. When the time came, the Holy Emperor would also reconsider. Lin Wutian held the divine sword and took a deep breath. For this marriage, it was not only his business, but also the business of the Guangzong. As long as the marriage was successful, the Guangzong could be considered to have successfully stood firm in the big world. If it failed, the Guangzong would be in danger. Yi Qinghan was very calm. In his opinion, there was nothing in the world that could not be driven by interest. Even if there were, with endless resources as the price, it was enough to break all pressure. The Saint of Light reminded the three of them and took them into the void. A month later, they entered a vast city. The spiritual qi here was very active, and the elements were much purer than those in the East. The West cultivated the elements, while the East cultivated the spiritual qi. Therefore, the ratio of elements and spiritual qi contained in the air between the two places was very different. This city is called the Holy City of Love. Here, meaningless killing is strictly prohibited. If you want to kill, you must apply for official approval under open circumstances. You must fight one-on-one, which is a duel. The goddess of love may let you fight a few rounds to test your strength and temperament. You must seize this opportunity. If you miss this opportunity, it will be difficult in the future, the Saint of Light continued to remind them. Thank you, Senior. Lin Wutian thanked him respectfully. The Saint of Light glanced at Lin Wutian, then looked at Yi Qinghan and smiled. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. You are the enemy of the Holy Land, so you are the friends of the Oshi Holy Land. Moreover, I have seen the strength of the two of you. I am more optimistic about the two of you, so I am willing to help you. Chapter 21-24. The Holy City of Love was particularly harmonious, and the aura of love was everywhere. Although there was no lack of battles, they were all fair one-on-one duels. In the Holy City of Love, female cultivators were supreme, and men were just accessories. Powerful female cultivators could be seen everywhere with many followers behind them. Yi Qinghan and the others quickly followed the Saint of Light into the city. Their auras were restrained, but their Eastern appearance still attracted many people's attention, especially some women. Their eyes suddenly lit up as they stared at Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian. However, Yar Xing was a member of the royal family, and her eyes were a symbol, so no one dared to act recklessly. It seemed that no one knew Yar Xing and the Saint of Light. Both of them were extremely low-key. In the blink of an eye, they entered the center of the city with Yi Qinghan and went straight to the Saintess mansion. The goddess of love was the third-generation Saintess, and Yar Xing was the 18th-generation Saintess. The goddess of love's level was much higher than Yar Xing's. Even Yar Xing had to be respectful here. The gate of the Saintess mansion was majestic and solemn. 2 giant tigers guarded the gate. At first glance they thought they were statues, but when they got closer they realized that they were actually alive. The lightning tiger was a mutated beast that wielded the power of lightning. It was a high-tier saint beast, and it had already cultivated to upper saint realm. Lightning crackled in its eyes, and as soon as it saw the 4 of them approaching, it stood up. It was around 8 meters tall, and it had a muscular body, thick limbs, and sharp white fangs. Roar! A deep roar reverberated through the air, causing the 4 people's hair to flutter in the wind. Whoosh! The Saint of Light exuded the pressure of a saint, and the light element bathed the 2 thunder tigers. He frowned and whispered, "The Saint of Light has brought 3 children to visit the Saintess of Love. I hope that the Saintess will come out and meet us." The low voice condensed into a line, and in the blink of an eye, it rushed into the depths of the Saintess mansion. At this moment, Yar Xing was excited. She had only seen the goddess of love once. She was a woman that made all men go crazy. She represented love and beauty and was supreme. She was single and unmarried. The younger generation did not know why, but the 4 saints of the Oshi sacred land knew, so the relationship between the 4 was very bad. Yar Xing also knew that the 4 saints' relationship was very bad, so she was not sure if the goddess of love would meet her, Lin Wutian, and Yi Qinghan today. The Thunder Tiger didn't make way for them, which meant that the Saintess of Love hadn't made her stand yet. The Saint of Light's face was gloomy. Regret and helplessness appeared on his vigorous face. The sadness in his eyes could not be dispelled. Back then, we were wrong, love. Now that the scene has reappeared, I don't want to repeat the same mistake. Give me another chance. The Saint of Light transmitted his voice again, but this time, other than himself, only the Saintess of Love could hear it. Scram! A cold voice rushed from the mansion into the sea of consciousness of the Saint of Light. The Saint of Light's body trembled, and his body involuntarily took a step back. A sense of sadness and regret arose spontaneously. When Yi Qinghan saw this, he knew that the Saint of Light and the Goddess of Love had a grudge, and it involved feelings. He thought to himself, "I'm afraid I won't be able to see her today." Yar Saint did not know the truth, and could only look at the Saint of Light for help. Sigh. Let's go. The Saint of Light sighed and turned to leave. In an instant, his back was filled with desolation and sorrow. Yar Saint did not dare to ask more, and Yi Qinghan did not dare to ask more. He could only follow the Saint of Light and leave. The Saintess mansion was dead silent. Only the maids were walking around. The environment was beautiful, and the decorations were more oriental. Flowers flew and butterflies danced, and it was magnificent. There was no trace of the Goddess of Love. The Saint of Light did not lead the 3 of them directly out of the holy city of love. Instead, they entered a restaurant. The 4 of them asked for a private room and had a simple meal. Then, they all fell silent. The Saint of Light looked apologetic and said helplessly, "I can't help you. The Goddess of Love has not appeared for many years. Other than the Emperor Ancestor, she will not see anyone." "Shouldn't you be family? You are connected by blood. Why do I feel like there is a grudge between you 2? Yi Qinghan could not suppress his curiosity and finally asked. When it came to grudges, the Saint of Light was even more annoyed and helpless. He lowered his head and remained silent for a long time. Yar Saint also did not know why the 4 saints of the Holy Land would not see each other. They were very prejudiced against each other. However, she did not dare to ask because she had asked the Emperor Ancestor once. The Emperor Ancestor was angry at her for the first time. Since then, this matter had been a mystery that no one could unravel. After a long time, the Saint of Light held his head and said regretfully, "What happened back then, I can't say who was right or wrong. However, from the perspective of the Saintess of Love, we were wrong. She only fell in love once in her life. Moreover, the other party was not from the Oshi Holy Land. He was not even from the Eternal World. He was the Crown Prince of the Daluo Star Realm, the 9-Star Saint. Back then, when the Holy Empire attacked the Daluo Star Realm, the 9-Star Saint asked for help from the Oshi Holy Land. Yar Saint sucked in a breath of cold air. No wonder the Goddess of Love was still unwilling to come out. She was even cold to the Emperor Ancestor. At the mention of the 9-Star Saint, Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He quickly asked, "The 9-Star Saint. Is there a 9-star alignment under his feet?" The Saint of Light frowned and shook his head. "I don't know. This is a private matter." However, the 9-Star Saint was infinitely close to becoming a saint at a very young age. He is also the only one who has remained undefeated against a saint when he was at the great circle of the upper level. This is a legend, a record that no one has broken until now. No wonder the old woman of the 3rd generation cares so much about him. He is so outstanding. Yar Saint murmured. The Saint of Light sighed. Yes, he is very outstanding. Back then, the Emperor Ancestor was also willing to help the Daluo Astral Realm, and even wanted to form a marriage alliance. However, the Sky-Reaching Church stood on the side of the Holy Empire. The Sky-Reaching Church personally informed the Emperor Ancestor that as long as the Oshi Sacred Ground attacked the Holy Empire, the Sky-Reaching Church would definitely not sit idly by. Therefore, the Emperor Ancestor asked us to vote. The 3 of us opposed, so he hesitated. However, he did not consider that the Holy Empire was too powerful. In just a few months, when the Emperor Ancestor hesitated, the Holy Emperor of the Holy Empire joined forces with the 9 saints to suppress the Daluo Astral Realm's Emperor and destroy everything. The 9-Star Saint's life was never found. No wonder Yi Qinghan clenched his fist. The Oshi Sacred Ground was unique in that the relationship between the saints of the Holy Lands was so bad. Is the person in the sealed sky prison stepping on the stars the 9-Star Saint? Yi Qinghan was not sure. Lin Shui did not give him a definite answer. Lin Jun also did not know. After all, Lin Shui was still too young at that time. 9-Star Saint? Yi Qinghan frowned and asked in a deep voice, "Back then, why was the Crown Prince called the 9-Star Saint?" The Saint of Light thought for a moment and said, "His name is Lin Jiuxing. It doesn't seem to have any special meaning." Hua! Yi Qinghan stood up and said firmly, "I am going to see the Goddess of Love. I must find out who the existence in the sealed sky prison is." After speaking, Yi Qinghan rushed out of the restaurant alone and went straight to the Saintess' residence. Chapter 21-25. Yi Qinghan rushed down the restaurant and went straight to the Saintess' residence without the Light Saint's permission. Outside the Saintess' residence, Lei Hu was still guarding the door, glaring at Yi Qinghan, not allowing him to step into the residence. Yi Qinghan stood at the entrance, cupped his fists and said, "Junior Yi Qinghan of the East requests the Goddess of Love to come out and meet me. I have something important to tell you, and it may involve your deepest feelings. Junior is not sure, so I hope Senior can come out and clear my doubt." The Saintess' residence was silent, and there was no reply. Roar! Lei Hu saw that the Saintess of Love did not come out, so he roared and pressed on, wanting Yi Qinghan to leave. Yi Qinghan did not retreat, and his eyes were deep as he stared at the residence, hoping that the Goddess of Love would come out to meet him. Whether or not the person in the ceiling sky prison was a 9-star saint, at least one doubt would be eliminated. But if it was a 9-star saint, the goddess of love would definitely join forces with him and support Lin Wutian in marrying Yar Saint. At this time, Yar Saint and Lin Wutian chased from afar, but the Light Saint did not come because he knew that even if he did, it would only anger the goddess of love. Yar Saint bowed and asked, "The 18th generation saintess requests an audience with the 3rd generation ancestor. I have something important to ask you to come out?" But after half an hour, there was still no reply from the saintess residence. Boom! Yar Saint knelt at the gate, unwilling to get up no matter how Lin Wutian tried to pull him. The goddess of love seemed indifferent, and she was unwilling to come out. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, the color of the sky gradually darkened, a drizzle of rain swirling about. The gloomy and cold wind was bone-chilling, blowing at the 3 individuals' divine robes. The rainwater messed up their black hair, messily draping over their shoulders. Yi Qinghan had no intention of leaving. This matter was too important, and it was the hope of getting the goddess of love to help. At this time, a clear and ethereal voice floated out from the residence. "You can go. I won't see you. My line is broken, and I don't want to care about the world anymore." Yar Saint was in despair. He didn't know how to move the goddess of love and get her to come out. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed, and he said in a deep voice, "Senior, do you know the person who stepped on the stars?" The atmosphere in the saintess residence surged. Dark clouds pressed down on the ground, and the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. However, the goddess of love still did not respond. It was as if she did not hear Yi Qinghan's words. "Senior, perhaps you don't know about stepping on the stars, but have you heard of the 9-star alignment and controlling the stars with a wave of your hand?" If you still don't know, the star chessboard should know, right? Yi Qinghan was unwilling to give up, so he spoke again. Whoosh! In a split second, Yi Qinghan felt his throat being choked by a pair of hands as he was lifted off the ground. The invisible hand did not even give him a chance to resist. Yi Qinghan's holy golden body struggled madly, but to no avail. Even his feet were pulled off the ground and his face turned red. "Senior, we have no intention of blasphemy." At this moment, even Lin Wutian knelt down in shock. He did not expect the strength of a saint to be so exaggerated. She could choke Yi Qinghan to death with just a thought. "Grandmother, you are a symbol of love. You can understand my feelings. Please give me a chance. Just a little chat. If I can't change your mind, we won't disturb you anymore," Yarshing said anxiously. Yi Qinghan's throat was almost severed by the invisible hand. The terrifying willpower was about to destroy his soul and physical body. However, his physical body was indeed terrifying. His hand slowly pried open the void hand, but he was still unable to completely break free. "Senior, the person I was talking about is still alive. You gave me a chance to meet him. I will not let you down," Yi Qinghan gasped for breath and said hoarsely. Whoosh! The 3 figures at the door lost control and were directly dragged into the saintess's residence by an invisible hand. In a courtyard near a mountain and a river, the spiritual energy in the surroundings was dense. A woman about 1.75 meters tall with blonde hair draped over her shoulders, wearing a long black dress. Just by looking at her back, one could tell that she was the most beautiful woman in the world. It made one's heart beat faster involuntarily. This person waved her hand and controlled the great Tao of the heavens. She gently pinched her jade-like hand, and a small flower appeared in her hand. Yi Qinghan and the other 2 appeared in the courtyard. Hiss! Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He did not expect the goddess of love to be so much more powerful than the chess saint and Xiahou Zun. She was probably even more terrifying than Xiahou He, who was blessed by the heavens. "You better not joke with me about this. Otherwise, you are dead, even if you are the disciple of the heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage." The woman did not turn her head. Her voice was like the sound of nature, but it was filled with killing intent and coldness. It made one's hair stand on end. Yi Qinghan felt as if his spine was being pierced by needles. The pain penetrated into his bone marrow, and goosebumps appeared all over his body. This goddess of love was too scary. I am speaking the truth. I saw a person stepping on stars in the heaven-sealing prison of the Holy Empire. He was chained up, and I could not see his strength. But at the very least, his cultivation should be close to that of a saint. He was very young, and I cannot describe his appearance. Because I have too little time, I could not communicate with him. But I saw clearly that there were 9 stars under his feet, just like the stars. Yi Qinghan hurriedly said. The goddess of love turned her head. Her face was so beautiful that it took one's breath away. In an instant, peerless beauties like Yar Saint and Fanine could not be compared to her. The goddess of love's eyes and blonde hair were similar to Yar Saint's, but her aura was like that of a fairy. This aura was seen on the Green Lotus Sword Fairy, and no one dared to blaspheme it. Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian did not dare to look her in the eyes, and quickly lowered their heads. This pair of eyes had an additional ability compared to Yar Saint's, and that was the ability to control all living things. It could make a saint self-destruct. A saint could not kill a saint, but it could kill himself. This was another person with extraordinary talent after the Green Lotus Sword Fairy. It was even more frightening than a great saint. The golden eyes seemed to have an endless black hole vortex that could devour everything. What does what you said have to do with me? What does it have to do with the star chessboard? The goddess of love was as cold as ice as she asked indifferently. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows and asked, I just want to know if this person is the crown prince of the Daluo star realm, the 9-star saint. The goddess of love shook her head and replied, I don't know. Based on your description, I can't be sure. After all, the 9-star saint and I are only soul friends. We have never had any physical contact, so I don't know if there is a 9-star alignment under his feet. The goddess of love was still a virgin. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He did not expect this woman to be so infatuated. They were only soul friends, and she could not forget them for countless years. What's the star chessboard about? The goddess of love stared at Yi Qinghan and asked in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan did not hide anything and said directly, there was an orphaned princess of the Daluo star realm who appeared in the eastern desolate realm with the star chessboard. I accidentally saved her. She was too young and seemed to have been sealed. She knows nothing about what happened back then, so I can't be sure who the person in the sealed sky prison is. Huff, 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 a glimmer of light and hope appeared in the goddess of love's eyes. After all, she had never seen the corpse of the 9-star saint, so she could not be sure if he was dead. However, the Holy Empire was too powerful, and even the great sage was suppressed. She naturally thought that he was dead. Yi Qinghan's words once again ignited her fighting spirit. The goddess of love stared at Yi Qinghan and said firmly, help me find out. I will support your request. Chapter 21-26. The goddess of love stared at Yi Qinghan. There was finally some emotion in her eyes, but it made Yi Qinghan feel even more pressured. Yi Qinghan smiled bitterly. I can't enter the heaven-sealing prison again. I'm afraid that if I'm caught, I won't have the chance to appear again. The goddess of love did not care. She only said coldly, think of your own way. There is nothing in this world that is impossible. I'll give you time. I'll support your matter first. That's my sincerity. Yi Qinghan rubbed his head. Sure enough, beautiful women weren't easy to deal with. For example, Bailey Chenxiang, Green Lotus Sword Immortal, and the woman in front of him. Once they decided on something, there was no room for objection. Going to the heaven-sealing prison is gambling with your life. If you lose, you die. If you win, you may not survive. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself. But when he thought about it carefully, Hadn't everything he obtained been exchanged with his life? However, Lin Wutian was not willing to let Yi Qinghan exchange his life for his marriage. He shook his head and said, "Even if you don't support my marriage with Yar, I won't let my master exchange his life for mine. It's not up to you to decide. Help me now and you may live. If you don't help me now, I can send you to your death. No one can save you." The goddess of love flashed coldly. She did not look loving at all. She was clearly a demon. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He could only smile bitterly and say, "I'll think of another way. I promise to help you find out the identity of that person. In fact, I also want to find out the identity of that person. That's why I came to see you." "Okay." The goddess of love nodded calmly. Then, she looked at Lin Wutian and Yar Sheng. "A talented man and a beautiful woman. You are a good match. I saw your courage just now. You dared to go against the will of the saint for your master. You are a sentimental person. However, the husband of the Emperor's saintess is not only about love and courage. It also depends on your wisdom, strength, talent, and opportunity." Although the goddess of love was only about 1.75 meters tall, she looked like she was looking down on all living things. Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian were always a head shorter than her. Lin Wutian's will was strong, but at this moment, he couldn't refute. This woman's temperament and aura were only slightly weaker than Green Lotus Sword Fairies. This difference was huge for a saint, but for Lin Wutian, who was in the upper realm, it didn't make any difference. Based on the saint's assessment alone, Lin Wutian said with a bow. The goddess of love looked at Lin Wutian, raised 4 fingers and said, "If you fail one of the 4 tests, I can't convince myself to support you." "Strength, wisdom, talent, and opportunity?" Lin Wutian asked curiously. The goddess of love nodded and said, "The first test is strength. I will give you 2 years to defeat all the top 30 masters in my territory in the past 1,000,000 years. This is the name list of the 30 people that I approve of, not the 30 people who have a reputation in the underworld." Whoosh! The goddess of love waved her hand, and a rune appeared in Lin Wutian's mind. It was engraved with the names and locations of the 30 masters. Every one of them was described clearly. Before Lin Wutian could take a closer look, the goddess of love said, "The second test is wisdom. There is a maze here. If you can walk out of it in 3 months, you will pass the test. The third test is luck. There is a small secret realm in my territory. There is a piece of my experience in that secret realm. It has been hidden in the depths of the secret realm for countless years, and no one has found it yet. If you can find it within a year, you will pass the third test. The fourth test is talent. Once you have obtained my experience, I will give you another 10 years to comprehend it to the small success realm." The 4 tests weren't difficult, but they were difficult in terms of time. Each test only gave a short period of time, so it was no wonder that no one had passed the test until now. "No one can help you. Yi Qinghan, you 2 stay in the mansion. Your time starts now. Pass the test within 14 years and reach here." "You will pass," the goddess of love said coldly. Yi Qinghan shrugged and patted Lin Wutian's shoulder. He said, "You can only rely on yourself for this. I can't help you much, but I will give you a little spiritual pet. I hope it will be useful." After saying this, Yi Qinghan forced the little divine bird out of his bloodline. The little divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan with an aggrieved expression and said, "If there's anything, go find my father. Why are you looking for me?" Yi Qinghan pinched the divine feather on the little divine bird's forehead and said calmly, "I will give you to my disciple. Stay by his side. If you dare to cause trouble, I will pluck all your feathers." Wow! The little divine bird was so scared that its wings exploded. It glared at Yi Qinghan and almost cursed out loud. Whoosh! Without waiting for the little divine bird to curse, Yi Qinghan pinched its little claw and dripped a drop of blood on Lin Wutian's forehead. A master-servant contract was automatically formed. F*CKU If you want to give someone else a favor, then give my father to someone else. Why give it to me? I have nothing to do with you. The little divine bird finally couldn't take it anymore. It hugged its little claw and sucked on it, afraid that it would waste a drop of blood. Yi Qinghan rolled his eyes. This little bastard seemed to be even more difficult to deal with than the big bastard. Looking at its resentful face, he couldn't help but rub his hands and say, "Do you believe that I will give your mother away and make you an orphan?" Suddenly, the little divine bird became obedient and said to Lin Wutian, "Let's go. I am too lazy to argue with an idiot." Lin Wutian was speechless, but Yer was amused and laughed. The goddess of love looked at the little divine bird with interest. She didn't expect there to be such a spiritual pet in the world. Lin Wutian looked at Yi Qinghan's face and didn't dare to let the little divine bird provoke Yi Qinghan again. He hurriedly took the little divine bird and left the saintess mansion. Yer looked at Lin Wutian's back and asked worriedly, "Grandmother, if those old monsters in your territory attack him, won't Wutian be in danger?" The goddess of love replied indifferently, "This is also within the scope of the comprehensive assessment of luck, strength, and wisdom. If he can't protect himself, how can he protect you in the future?" When Yi Qinghan heard this, he shook his head and sighed. Beautiful women really can't be provoked. What kind of assessment is this? It's clearly a matter of life and death. The goddess of love coldly glanced at Yi Qinghan and waved her hand. "Go out. Don't disturb me if there's nothing important. Your range of activity is 3,000 miles around the holy city of love. If you dare to leave to help Lin Wutian, our agreement ends here." Yer smiled bitterly and said respectfully, "Yes, we will follow your orders." Yi Qinghan and Yer shook their heads and were about to leave when the goddess of love suddenly said, "Make that bastard leave the holy city of love. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude." The bastard was naturally referring to the light saint. Back then, the light saint had voted against the goddess of love because he admired her. Who would have thought that love would turn into hatred? One mistake would cause everlasting regret. Even now, they couldn't even be considered friends. Chapter 21-27. The goddess of love's words made the light sage leave with his tail between his legs. Yi Qinghan was bored to death as he strolled around the holy city of love. Occasionally, he would buy a few books on Western cultivation methods to study. There was a fundamental difference between the cultivation methods of Western and Eastern cultivators. It was very simple. Eastern cultivation methods were much more complicated. Just like that, he strolled around for a month. Yi Qinghan used Western cultivation methods to cultivate all the way to the Sector Lord realm without any pressure. However, if he wanted to cultivate to the upper realm, he would need a powerful mental force. The cultivation methods would also become more difficult to understand. Since he was bored, Yi Qinghan began to focus on mental force. The power of mental force was very mysterious and very useful. Previously, when the goddess of love had strangled him, she had used mental force. Even from such a far distance, he couldn't resist. One could see how powerful it was. 2 months later, a shocking news came from the holy city of love. An Eastern cultivator fought continuously for 60 days. On average, he crossed a city every 3 days and defeated a peak upper realm expert. He didn't even rest. In just 2 months, 20 peak experts were suppressed. This news caused a huge commotion in the holy city of love. Countless experts were tempted. They wanted to defeat this Eastern expert and become famous in one fell swoop. They wanted to attract the attention of the saints and become like carps jumping through the dragon gate. Lin Wutian's route was clear. Those who were familiar with the holy city of love knew where his next destination was. Xiao, 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 Xiao. All the experts rushed to Tell City. They wanted to see if Lin Wutian could defeat the eldest son of Tell City, Grand Duke Terwei. Although Terwei was from the younger generation, His strength had already surpassed his father. He had achieved the title of Grand Duke. The next step would be the title of Grand Emperor. This was a top-notch title. Only emperors and saints could receive it. Currently, there were only 5 Grand Emperors. One of them wasn't a saint, but his strength was only second to a saint. In Tell City, the City Lord's mansion. The City Lord, Tell You, looked at Grand Duke Terway with a solemn expression. Terway looked like he had just entered middle age. His eyes were vigorous and his aura was restrained. He had a strong and powerful body that was one size bigger than the Eastern people. His eyes moved and his mental force overflowed. He was definitely not someone ordinary experts could compare to. Terway, this matter is no small matter. If you lose, your reputation will be ruined. In front of the goddess of love, your position will also be affected. Tell You reminded him. Phew. Terway clenched his fists and slowly stood up. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. The goddess of love sent me a message. She wants me to defeat this Eastern cultivator, no matter what, Turvey said in a deep voice. City Lord Tell You was shocked and hurriedly asked, What? Has this matter alarmed her? Terway nodded and said, I've already investigated his background. He's the second in command of a small sect in the East. His strength is extraordinary, but he has never used his full strength. Some people say that his full strength has already surpassed his master, Yi Qinghan. This Yi Qinghan is the strongest of the young generation, Xia Jialong. If Lin Wutian's strength is really on par with Yi Qinghan's or even surpasses him, then I certainly won't be able to complete the goddess order. A small sect? Tell You didn't care much about the East and didn't know anything about it? He asked suspiciously. Terway shook his head helplessly and replied, Although it's a small sect, this sect leader, Yi Qinghan, is the disciple of the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage. Although he joined the Heavenly Grandmaster sect halfway, his strength is comparable to Xia Jialong's. The foundation of the crazy sect is comparable to or even surpasses the rich and powerful sections. There are only 40 people in the sect, but everyone's strength is about the same. The weakest is in the middle level, and the strongest is in the upper level. It's a crazy sect and can't be judged by common sense. These words made Tell You's eyelids twitch. It was the first time he had seen such a sect. Just as the two were discussing, a figure appeared outside the city gate, causing a commotion in Tell City. Report, the Eastern cultivator has arrived. The commotion disrupted the silence in the city lord's residence. Even Tell You couldn't sit still. Before the battle, he had lost his momentum. Take the divine treasure of Tell City, the Heaven's Thunder Hammer, Tell You shouted angrily. He suppressed his shock and his battle spirit surged. Huff, huff, huff. Soon, more than 10 burly men carried a 3-meter-long hammer to the gate of the city lord's residence. It was as heavy as a star, surrounded by thunder and lightning. The terrifying pressure made it hard for people to breathe. More than 10 middle-level martial artists carried it, but they were still panting and sweating profusely. The Heaven's Thunder Hammer's level was unknown. It was a divine treasure bestowed by the Holy Emperor himself. It had been passed down for generations, and countless tribesmen had used their blood and will to temper it. It already had its own spirit and will. Tell You was shocked and quickly reminded, Be careful of the Heaven's Thunder Hammer. After so many years, no one can use it except for our ancestors. Although you are strong, the Heaven's Thunder Hammer's aura is stronger. Tell You stared at the Heaven's Thunder Hammer and said seriously, I have no other choice. After so many years, the Heaven's Thunder Hammer has acknowledged only me. I'm confident that I can control it. After he finished speaking, Tell You stretched out his hand to grab the Heaven's Thunder Hammer. The ground was instantly cracked by him, and the air blasted into the galaxy. Lightning flashed all around and the thunder grew thicker. Dark clouds covered space. Whoosh! Bolts of lightning swept across the mountains and rivers like dragons. In an instant, wind, rain, thunder, and lightning appeared at the same time. All the masters in Telyu City were alarmed. The golden-haired, blue-eyed Telyu was full of fighting spirit. He held the heaven's thunderhammer in his hand and stepped on the mountains and rivers. His golden hair danced in the wind. He quickly stepped out of the city lord's residence and went straight to the city gate. Lin Wutian's eyes were like torches. Compared to Telyu, he was much more delicate. He looked at the lightning and dark clouds in the sky, and a rolling pressure spread out of the city. He knew that Telyu had accepted the challenge, so he didn't enter the city. Instead, he stood at the city gate with the divine sword. Many masters gathered at the city gate, and they all looked at Lin Wutian curiously. Some of them were full of fighting spirit and looked at him angrily. It was as if Lin Wutian was declaring war on the whole West. The glory of their race made them angry. However, this group of people had cultivated to the upper level, so they weren't stupid. They were all waiting for Telyu to appear. Whether he won or lost, at least they had a rough understanding of Lin Wutian's strength. Boom, boom, boom. Thunder and lightning flashed in the sky, and it was raining heavily. A layer of light appeared around Lin Wutian, and the rain couldn't get close to him. Whoosh! Crack! 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 A bolt of lightning tore through the dark clouds. A strong figure holding the heaven's thunder hammer walked to the city gate. They looked at each other, and their fighting spirit soared. Lin Wutian's eyes were full of vigor. He looked at Telyu and knew that this person was a strong opponent. His heaven's thunder hammer alone wasn't something that ordinary people could resist. Eternal divine weapon? Lin Wutian frowned. With his strength, he couldn't use the Green Lotus sword song. How could he resist Telyu's heaven's thunder hammer? Chapter 21-28. An eternal divine weapon. The sky thunder hammer was definitely an eternal divine weapon. It was as heavy as a star, but it was connected to Turvi's bloodline. It was not that heavy when he held it, but it was different when he smashed it on the enemy. Moreover, it had the power of pure thunder and lightning. Turvi was not an upper-level cultivator. Boom! Turvi stepped out of the ancient Turvi city. His face was slightly red, and he was a little embarrassed. He had bullied a junior like this. Even if he won, it would be an unfair victory, but he had no other choice. Lin Wutian held the divine sword. His delicate body and calm face made him look even more handsome. Even if the West's aesthetic standards were different from the East's, he still stood out among the crowd. They looked at each other, and their fighting spirit soared. Even in the face of an eternal divine weapon, Lin Wutian was not afraid at all. Go to the Wuji mountain. There are no creatures there, so we can fight freely. Turvi's voice was like a bell, mighty and mighty. Lin Wutian said, "Lead the way." Boom! Turvi stepped on the ground and pulled lightning. Thunder surrounded his golden body as he rushed into the distance. Whoosh! Lin Wutian's figure flashed and appeared beside him. He looked calm as he stepped on the wind and clouds, and the broken leaves turned into divine weapons and pierced through the rocks. Whoosh! The masters gathered outside the city all rushed over, but they were very far away, for fear of being hit by the sky thunderhammer in Turvi's hand. Whoosh! Whoosh! This battle attracted at least 100 upper-level masters. Almost half of the masters in the Holy Land of Love were gathered there. They were all young warriors, and their cultivation was not bad. The everlasting mountain was lacking in resources. It was a barren mountain range with very little wild grass. There were quite a few thorns with thorns, but they had no value at all. Whoosh! Whoosh! Turvi and Lin Wutian occupied two mountains at the same time, more than 100 meters apart. Lin Wutian of the Eastern Wild Sect. Please enlighten me. Lin Wutian said with a fist salute. Turvi held the 3-meter-long sky thunder hammer. His aura flowed and thunder surrounded him. Lightning from the primitive world hung vertically upside down, dense and dense. The surrounding thunder elements had already covered the mountains and rivers. It was terrifying. Turvey, the Grand Duke of Oshi. I hold the ancestral sky thunderhammer. Boy, admit defeat and I will spare your life. Turvey said in a deep voice. Whoosh. Lin Wuqian pushed the hilt of his sword with his thumb, and the sword whistled through the sky. Cyan light covered 100 miles, and the field of the way of the sword rushed out of his body, trying to isolate the lightning elements. The aura of the two sides clashed with each other. Whoosh, whoosh. Lin Wuqian's swordsmanship had overwhelmed all the upper plane cultivators. Even the upper plane cultivators who were far away felt shocked and awed. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Lin Wuqian unsheathed his sword at an extreme speed. The sword light tore through the long river and rushed into the depths of untainted land. His body seized the sky. The green lotus fairy step seized the heavens had been modified. It was more advanced and faster. This was the result of the research of Green Lotus Sword Fairy after being suppressed for so many years. Its speed was much faster than the Green Lotus Fairy step. Whoosh! Afterimages filled the sky, and even the lightning couldn't catch up to them. Whoosh! 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 While Turwei was still in shock, Lin Wuqian made his move. Countless sword lights tore through the shackles, shattering the lightning elements and preventing them from gathering. Whoosh! How old is this guy? He can't be more than 100,000 years old. Damn! Have I been cultivating for so many years? Is he really just an upper-level warrior? The experts standing in the distance couldn't even raise their fighting spirit. They weren't even on the same level. Whoosh! 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 Lin Wuqian had no choice but to run. He kept teleporting his golden body while Turwei chased after him, not giving Lin Wuqian a chance to counterattack. Whoosh! 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 The two of them continued to teleport, tearing apart the void. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged close to 1,000 moves. Time passed, and several hours later, Turwei was not tired at all. Instead, he fought even more valiantly. He was absorbing the thunder elements, and the sky thunderhammer was also helping him absorb the element. However, he had expended too much of his will, and his life force was being rapidly devoured. Lin Wuqian was anxious. If Turwei kept bothering him for 3 to 5 days, he wouldn't have enough time to complete the first test. Little divine bird, help me think of a way. I don't have time to waste on him, Lin Wuqian said frantically. The little divine bird didn't even show its head. It lazily said, "It's none of my business. Solve your own problems." Poof! Lin Wuqian almost spat out blood. This bastard was really good at tricking his master. Do you believe that I won't throw you into the thunder and lightning? Lin Wuqian said frantically. The little divine bird was speechless and said helplessly, "What can I do? I'm a wise man, but even the cleverest housewife can't cook without rice. Do you understand? He has an eternal divine weapon, and he's not afraid of consumption. We can't force our way in. If we get injured, we won't be able to participate in the rest of the test." Lin Wuqian's eyes flashed coldly. He didn't see that Turwei was weak at all. He knew that he couldn't wait, so he had to force his way in. Whoosh! 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 One sword turned into 10,000, and each sword hit a bolt of lightning. 3 to 5 sword rays and a bolt of lightning perished together. Boom! 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 The lightning was constantly smashed by the sword chi. Lin Wuqian followed the sword chi and approached Turwei. The originally dense lightning was torn apart by him, and he kept approaching Turwei. Boom! Turwei wielded the sky thunder hammer and smashed it at Lin Wuqian. Lin Wuqian didn't want to waste any more of his energy, so he mobilized all his power to attack the sky thunder hammer. Boom! The moment the two collided, the divine sword in Lin Wutian's hand turned into powder. He didn't even have a chance to resist. The Sky Thunder Hammer was too powerful. Poof! Lin Wutian's face suddenly changed. It was as if he had been hit by a star. The bones in his hand were broken, and his body flew dozens of miles away, crashing into a mountain. Boom! Whoosh! Terwei was as fast as lightning. He held the Sky Thunder Hammer and smashed it at the mountain where Lin Wutian was. In an instant, the whole mountain was razed to the ground. The land covered by lightning was barren. Hiss! Hiss! The expert standing in the distance took a deep breath, and a trace of pity appeared in his eyes. It was as if he had seen Lin Wutian's corpse. Terwei also felt that Lin Wutian couldn't survive this hammer, so he put the Sky Thunder Hammer on the ground. As a result, the ground collapsed and the mountain collapsed. It couldn't bear the weight of the Sky Thunder Hammer at all. Just as lightning flashed and thunder roared, a figure's speed broke the limit. He waved his hand and condensed his energy into a blade. Then, he slashed at Terwei's neck. Lin Wutian smiled as blood dripped from the corner of his mouth. When your speed reaches its limit, there is nothing you cannot overcome. When you flattened the mountain range, my people had already left. You underestimated your enemy. However, there is punishment. The goddess of love asked me to take the Sky Thunder Hammer back. She wants you to take it yourself. Terwei's face was pale, and a trace of cold sweat appeared on his forehead. He didn't dare to move. Chapter 21-29. One day, Yi Qinghan was in a large spiritual treasure shop in the holy city of love to buy a secret method to practice the elements. When he heard that Lin Wutian had defeated Teru, who had the Sky Thunder Hammer, he couldn't help but smile. But the world was shocked, and even the goddess of love was stunned when she heard the news. What a powerful little guy! Even the eternal sacred weapon can't defeat him. The goddess of love's eyes flashed, and the aura in her eyes made people not dare to look at her directly. Lin Wutian left Teru City that day and took the Sky Thunder Hammer with him. Teru didn't dare to stop him. After all, it was the goddess of love who wanted to take the Sky Thunder Hammer away. Teru, the city lord of Teru City, almost went crazy when he heard that the Sky Thunder Hammer was gone. But he didn't dare to disobey the goddess of love, so he could only watch Lin Wutian leave. Lin Wutian carried the Sky Thunder Hammer, which was as heavy as a star, and left. Every step he took crushed the road, and his footprints were clearly visible. Many masters who saw this were frightened, and no one wanted to challenge him again. Boom! Boom! Whoosh! Even with the Sky Thunder Hammer, Lin Wutian still walked as if he was flying. On the third day, he arrived at his next destination. It only took him half an hour to defeat a master. Half a month later, Lin Wutian successfully completed his first assessment task. His strength was self-evident. In the territory of the goddess of love, no one could defeat Lin Wutian. Even two top masters of the upper level of the older generation were defeated by him. Lin Wutian was a real supreme master. He was on par with Yi Qinghan and Xia Zhilong, as well as the Nightwalker and the two young masters in linen clothes. He even surpassed Gui Shensi. A month later, Lin Wutian rushed to the holy city of love with the Sky Thunder Hammer, entered the Saintess Mansion, and handed it over. The goddess of love stroked the Sky Thunder Hammer. Her face was expressionless. She did not admire or praise Lin Wutian. It was as if Lin Wutian had done something easy. After all, the strongest existence she had ever seen was a 9-star saint. He was at the consummate level of the upper position realm and was on par with the eternal saint. He was invincible. It's okay. You're not the strongest among your peers. Don't be complacent. The goddess of love's evaluation was only not bad. If the world knew about this, they would probably bang their heads against the wall and commit suicide. Lin Wutian smiled. He wasn't dissatisfied or discouraged because he knew that there was someone who was stronger than him. That person was his teacher, Yi Qinghan. The second test is the labyrinth of nothingness. Walk out of the labyrinth within 3 months, the goddess of love said calmly. Lin Wutian was neither servile nor overbearing. He asked, "Where is it? Let's go. I'll take you there." The goddess of love waved her hand and the air surged. Lin Wutian lost his freedom, and his body involuntarily rose into the air. And at that moment, Yi Qinghan and Yarsheng were still shopping in the numinous treasure shop when they lost control and soared into the sky. Whoosh! The three of them only saw a blur in front of their eyes. When they reappeared, they were at the entrance of a deep cave. The goddess of love was standing at the entrance of the cave. There was a gentle breeze in the cave, and faint spiritual energy flowed out of the cave. It was exceptionally refreshing. This labyrinth of nothingness wasn't created by me, nor was it created by Emperor Zhisheng. Ancestor Zhisheng and I have entered it before, but we didn't find anything special. So don't think that there are any treasures inside. You just have to walk out within 3 months. It's not difficult. As long as you're smart enough, 3 months is enough, the goddess of love said calmly. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He was quite interested in the labyrinth of nothingness. He asked, "Senior, can I go in and take a look?" The goddess of love looked at Yi Qinghan and Yarsheng indifferently. She said, "Yes, you can go in after he comes out. This time, only he will be tested." Yi Qinghan was not in a hurry. After all, Lin Wutian still had many tests to take. Lin Wutian took a deep breath and walked in empty-handed. This labyrinth was like a palace. The walls of the palace were full of runes, but they were not of the east or the west. They seemed to be from another civilization. There were no rooms, only passageways that extended in all directions. The runes emitted light and it was not dark inside. Lin Wutian did not rely on the little divine bird. Instead, he groped around on his own and slowly walked inside. Yi Qinghan and Yarsheng waited anxiously. Wisdom was only one of the factors to walk out of the labyrinth in 3 months. Careful observation was also one of the factors. Yi Qinghan looked at the side of the goddess of love's face and asked curiously, "Senior, how long did it take you and Emperor Zhisheng to walk out of the labyrinth?" The goddess of love's breath stagnated, but she did not lie. She replied in a low voice, "It took half a year." Pft! Yarsheng and Yi Qinghan were speechless. A great sage and an eternal sage used half a year to walk out of the labyrinth, and they actually wanted an upper-level youngster to walk out in 3 months. This was simply asking for too much. The goddess of love looked at the two indifferently and said, "But the 9-star saint only used 2 months. He was also an upper-level cultivator and discovered the rules. When he told me about it, I understood that it was really easy to walk out of the labyrinth." Yi Qinghan shrugged and said inwardly, "This 9-star saint is really abnormal. Even a great sage was crushed. No wonder an existence like the goddess of love fell in love with him. But I am curious. If Yen Ao came, I wonder how long it would take him to walk out." Yen Ao's intelligence was simply abnormal. He probably would not lose to the 9-star saint. The three of them waited outside the labyrinth. Time passed little by little, and a month passed in the blink of an eye. At this time, Lin Wutian was nowhere to be found. This labyrinth of nothingness was as if everything was nothingness. Divine sense could not penetrate it, and neither could divine power or holy power. Even the Supreme Emperor could not shake this labyrinth back then. This labyrinth represented the crystallization of a civilization. Otherwise, it would not have been passed down to this day and preserved in such a complete state. Lin Wutian groped and stroked the runes with his big hands. Looking at all the runes and the walls, they seemed to be the same. There was no difference. He could not figure out the use of intelligence here. 2 months later, Lin Wutian did not find any clues. He could not help but feel a little anxious. Every time he walked to a dead end, he would return to the starting point. Now, he could not even find the starting point. "I really don't believe this. The more challenging something is, the more this divine bird likes it. Look at me. The little divine bird ran out of the bloodline. It stood on Lin Wutian's shoulder and looked around. It said solemnly, "This labyrinth cannot be empty. There must be treasures. Otherwise, who would spend so much effort to create such a labyrinth for fun?" Lin Wutian sniffed and looked at the labyrinth with some expectation. He did not know how many times he had tried, but his strength could not hurt the labyrinth at all. If he wanted to walk out, he must find the pattern and rules. "I still have a month. Can you take me out?" Lin Wutian asked. The little divine bird said confidently, "How can you mortals compare to this divine bird's intelligence? Look at me." Chapter 2130. The goddess of love, Yi Qinghan, and the others had been waiting outside the maze for nearly 3 months. There were only 3 days left until the end of the test. Did he fail? Yar Saint was a little reluctant. He knew that even if Lin Wutian failed this time, he could not be blamed. After all, the great sage and the goddess of love needed half a year. Yi Qinghan was very calm. He was very confident in Lin Wutian and the little divine bird. "Don't worry, there are still 3 days left," Yi Qinghan said lightly. Yar Saint took a deep breath. At this time, he could only wait silently. Boom, boom, boom. Suddenly, the ground shook as if there was a slight earthquake. In the blink of an eye, light shone in all directions. Different mysterious runes rushed out of the cave. The mountain range above the maze shattered, and the entire maze appeared in their sight. The goddess of love, Yi Qinghan, and the others narrowed their eyes. They jumped into the sky and saw the entire maze clearly. It was bigger than a palace, and it was a hole. The lines on it were exactly the same, and there were no rules to be found. What did this little guy do? How did the maze appear? The goddess of love asked in surprise. Yi Qinghan was also a little anxious. He quickly said, "Let's go in and see if there is any danger." Whoosh! Without waiting for the goddess of love's permission, Yi Qinghan rushed in. Whoosh! The goddess of love rushed in with Yar Saint. At this time, Lin Wutian and the little divine bird were digging a hole and had made a hole through a corner. Yes, it was a hole. The maze that even the great sage could not break through had been dug through by these 2 guys. Ha 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 ha, I knew it. There must be a mechanism here. The little divine bird laughed proudly. Lin Wutian's face was also filled with ecstasy. Every place was connected, and it was impossible to penetrate. Only here, the little divine bird found something strange. After several collisions, a small hole had appeared. After being penetrated, there was a handprint groove inside. Lin Wutian reached out and looked at his palm, then looked at the handprint in the groove. Feeling that it was about the same size, he knelt on the ground and pressed his big hand into the groove. Lin Wutian curiously looked at the trough, but he didn't feel anything special. He thought for a while and then used his green lotus sword chi, which was the most powerful spiritual power, to send it into the trough. Boom! Whoosh! All of a sudden, the maze of illusions began to move from the inside. The paths changed, and the path of life became a path of death, while the path of death became a path of life. The wall in front of him split into 2, and a huge room appeared. It was connected in all directions, and in the hall, there was a platform that resembled a cockpit. There was a display screen on it, but it was in a breathing mode. Yo yo yo, we've found a treasure. This isn't something from our era. The little divine bird's eyes were wide open as it ran to the cockpit and hopped about. There were symbols all over the cockpit that it didn't recognize at all. Lin Wutian touched everything like a curious baby. There were many buttons on it, but he had no idea what they were for. Do you think this is a magic tool? If I can control it, won't I be able to defend against an eternal saint's attack? Lin Wutian asked excitedly. It's possible, but how can I make it recognize me as its master? The little divine bird's eyes were brighter than its father's. It glanced at Lin Wutian and asked cautiously, I found this. You won't steal it from me, will you? Lin Wutian found that this guy's appetite was much bigger than its father's. Its father only wanted good things, but it wanted the best. Don't even think about it. It's mine, Lin Wutian replied decisively. The little divine bird couldn't help but curse. You ungrateful guy. I won't serve you anymore. Lin Wutian raised his eyebrows and glanced at it. He was focused on searching for the mechanism here. Suddenly, he found something that looked like a hood and put it on his head. Beep! Ninth Void Palace activated. Whoosh! Countless memories poured into Lin Wutian's sea of consciousness. It wasn't the language of the big world, but he could understand it. All the memories about Ninth Void Palace appeared in his sea of consciousness. Whoosh! The display screen lit up, and countless images appeared on it, including the space inside the Void Palace. Yi Qinghan, the goddess of love, and Yar Saint all appeared inside. Congratulations, Master, for activating the Ninth Void Palace. With just a drop of your heart's blood, you will be able to fuse with the Ninth Void Palace. You will be able to control my memories and knowledge. The Ninth Void Palace can also be absorbed into your body, allowing you to change it as you please. Whoosh! A little girl in her teens appeared in the center of the display screen. She looked like a fairy. Lin Wutian followed the fairy's instructions and forced a drop of blood essence into a small groove on the control panel. Suddenly, a halo shrouded him. He found that the entire maze was under his control. He could change it at will. With a thought, the passage changed, and the path was separated from the goddess of love and Yi Qinghan. Ha! Lin Wutian grinned, like a child who had found the most fun toy. He lacked childhood, but there was still a childlike innocence hidden in his bones. Interesting, fun, a civilization that doesn't belong to the big world. Lin Wutian laughed. The little divine bird was just about to leave when it found that Lin Wutian had completely controlled the maze. It immediately said flatteringly, Boss, are there any treasures in this maze? Can you give me some? Lin Wutian couldn't be bothered with it. First, he pushed the goddess of love, Yi Qinghan, and Yar Xing into his control room. Looking at the shocked faces of the three, he suddenly laughed and said, Hee, this is not a maze. It is a product of the previous civilization, Ninth Void Palace. It has been hundreds of millions of years since then. This Ninth Void Palace is the condensation of all the essence of the previous civilization. That's why the previous civilization disappeared, and only this one has been preserved to this day. The little divine bird said proudly, It's all thanks to me. I was the one who discovered the mechanism. At this time, the goddess of love didn't know what to say. She had been in here countless times, but she didn't know that this was something similar to an artifact palace. Yi Qinghan was also surprised. He didn't expect this to be a flying palace. But don't think that it's just a flying palace. It's also something that integrates defense, attack, and flight. It has no soul, but it has the ability to control itself, Lin Wutian explained excitedly. Interesting, the goddess of love and Yi Qinghan said in unison. What's the attack power? How big is the attack range? Can it produce energy on its own? Yar Xing asked excitedly. Lin Wutian controlled the little lowly spirit. She seemed to have a life of her own on the display screen. Her big eyes were bright as she looked at the three of them and explained, I am the machine spirit of Ninth Void Palace. The Void Palace needs spirit stones to operate. As long as the Void Palace has spirit stones to operate, I can always be awake. It's just that no one has activated the Void Palace for so many years, so it automatically fell into a deep sleep to reduce energy consumption. As for my attack power, it is automatically adjusted according to the needs of my master. The percentage is automatically adjusted, and the attack range is the same. Chapter 21:31. Coming from the previous civilization, no one could accept it or understand it. That included Yi Qinghan and the goddess of love. The three of them were dumbfounded. Only Lin Wutian, who had received all the knowledge from Void Palace No. 9, was not particularly surprised. Was there really another civilization in Eternal World in the past? Yi Qinghan asked curiously. The eyes of the little elf on the screen were bright and clear. Looking at the doubts and incomprehension of the three of them, she revealed a faint mocking smile. Then, she said, humans are at the top of the food chain. You are powerful and have boundless wisdom, but you are also the most foolish beings. Through cultivation, evolution, and development, you will become stronger and stronger. However, humans will also slowly push themselves to the edge of destruction as time passes. Yi Qinghan and the others looked at the elf from Void Palace No. 9 in surprise. Hearing that her philosophy was completely different from the current one, they were even more shocked and curious. Continue, the goddess of love said. In your previous civilization, which is our civilization, humans were very powerful. They fought with each other, and the major forces did not want to admit defeat. They kept researching and developing until they finally developed the strongest weapon. They destroyed each other, and in the end, the entire era fell and was annihilated. The era ended and humans died, but the world's ability to survive was far stronger than humans. After countless years of development, there is now a new civilization, a cultivator civilization. Can't you understand? The little elf asked curiously. In her opinion, such a simple logic should be easy for Yi Qinghan and the others to understand. I can understand it, but I can't accept it, Yi Qinghan said frankly. The little elf on the screen chuckled and looked down at the four of them with a mocking gaze. She said, to the fish in the fish tank, the tank is the entire world and there is no life outside the world. The fish in the sea think that the sea is the entire world and that outside the world is chaos. When they jump out of the cage and take human form, they realize that they are frogs at the bottom of the well. And you are also frogs at the bottom of the well. You are somewhat stupid. You live in this big fish tank and can't understand or accept even the slightest bit of new things. You always feel that the current civilization, the current world, is everything. Then tell me, what is outside the world? Is it really chaos? What was this civilization before? Yi Qinghan and company were dumbfounded by the questions that the little sprite threw out. Many of the questions were questions that they had never thought of before. This was because their fixed mindset told them that beyond this world was the universe's barrier. As for what came before this civilization was already very ancient. Who would have thought of what came before? Let me give you a simple example. When you are strong enough to destroy the world, or even destroy yourselves, the era will end, and all human beings will be annihilated. After countless years of development, a new civilization will be born. Will they also think that the existence of your civilization is absurd and ridiculous? When a divine weapon is unearthed, do they look at it the same way as you do? The little elf asked again. Yi Qinghan lowered his head and pondered for a moment. He nodded and said, I understand. Has your civilization been completely destroyed? There's nothing left? The little sprite shook her head and said, there must be some machines like me that have been preserved. Back then, the civilization was at its peak. The final battle left behind the brightest fireworks, and in the end, boom! A sound of destruction descended, and all things were annihilated. You will also follow in their footsteps. This is the power of progress, and it is also the inevitable result. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He felt that what the little sprite said made sense, and he slowly began to understand. When the little sprite saw that Yi Qinghan and company seemed to understand, she said something that was even more difficult for them to accept. In fact, there were other civilizations before our civilization. According to the people who researched and created me, There was at least one other civilization that was older than us. However, that era was too long ago, and everything has been erased by time. You don't have to think about it, the little sprite said calmly. Everything was explained in a few words. Yi Qinghan laughed self-deprecatingly. He looked at the little sprite on the screen and asked curiously, "Since you are the condensation of the essence of the previous civilization, what is your strongest power?" The little sprite revealed a puzzled expression. She looked up and thought for a while. Then, she said with some uncertainty, "I can probably destroy half the world. However, the energy required is not something you can provide. Back then, it was because I consumed too much energy that my master could not provide. That was why he said I was a useless weapon and hid me underground. It was because they hid me that I was able to survive. Otherwise, I would have been annihilated in the long river of history like the previous civilization." A useless weapon. Such a powerful weapon was actually a useless weapon. Lin Wutian was also absorbing all the memories and knowledge of Void Palace No. 9. Gradually, he had a systematic understanding of the previous civilization. Just as everyone was deep in thought, the little divine bird asked expectantly, "Do you have any treasures from the previous civilization in your stomach? Can it allow me to surpass the great sage?" About the power of the great sage, Master has just transmitted some memories. The power that people like them can erupt with is extremely terrifying. If more than 10 great sages join forces to fight, this world will be like the previous civilization. Bang! It will vanish into thin air. The little sprite said with a smile. It was as if the destruction of the world had nothing to do with her. She had no feelings at all. Everything depended on orders. She also had some self-control ability. Lin Wutian smiled faintly and shrugged. This Void Palace No. 9 requires too much energy. At most, it can be used as a defensive divine garment. Normally, it is not used unless necessary. Therefore, it is not very useful. As a turtle shell? Yi Qinghan was a little speechless. He did not expect that the condensation of the essence of the previous civilization would produce such a defective product. The little sprite was not angry at Yi Qinghan's mockery. Instead, she reminded Lin Wutian, "Master, I don't have much energy left. Next time, remember to collect more energy stones. I am not picky." After saying that, the entire maze quickly expelled the 4 of them from the screen. The maze shrank and turned into a palm-sized void palace that fell into Lin Wutian's hand. The goddess of love's face was as cold as ice. Her heart was in turmoil. This assessment was somewhat beyond her expectations. She could not accept what she had just heard and seen. Just treat it as a dream. Anyway, it was a useless weapon. It would not have the slightest impact on the great world, the goddess of love secretly muttered to herself. Then, she said, "Prepare for the 3rd assessment. I will take you to the small arcane realm." Chapter 2132. The secret realm was actually a training ground used by the goddess of love for seclusion. It contained the goddess of love's cultivation experience, which was priceless. Once it was spread out, even saints would fight for it, let alone upper-plane cultivators. The goddess of love sent Lin Wutian into the training ground and continued to wait outside with Yi Qinghan and the others. Yi Qinghan secretly laughed. He felt that the goddess of love was not testing Lin Wutian, but helping him and cultivating him. These 2 tests had at least raised Lin Wutian's strength to a new level. However, Yar Saint was still very nervous. He was afraid that Lin Wutian would not pass the test, and the goddess of love would no longer support their marriage. The goddess of love looked at Yar Saint's worried face and said faintly, "Don't worry. I believe that your judgment is not bad. This child has great potential. He might be the next 9-star saint and create another legend." Yar Saint's eyes flashed. He looked at the goddess of love and asked excitedly, Grandpa, is what you said true? The goddess of love nodded and did not say anything else. Yi Qinghan lay on the grass on the hillside with a weed in his mouth and a faint smile on his face. He looked up at the sky in boredom and tried to comprehend his thoughts, recalling the scene when the goddess of love used her thoughts to control him. The world was big and full of strange things. It was foolish to underestimate anyone and any cultivation method. It was like being unable to accept another era's civilization. This was not a simple machine because it came from a different era and was the crystallization of different civilizations. In fact, the goddess of love was also thinking about the ninth fairy's words. The more she thought about it, the more disgusted she felt. Humans were always destroying themselves. This was an inevitable ending. It was ridiculous and absurd to think about it, but it was the truth. This machine represents the crystallization and wisdom of the previous civilization. Its words summed up the ending of the two civilizations. Will this civilization also pay the price of annihilation? The goddess of love's eyes flashed as she looked at the sky. If she had heard this before, she would have just laughed. However, it was different now because the nine-star saint might still be alive. She had hope again, so she did not want to see such an ending. Yi Qinghan smiled faintly. It was still too early to talk about such an ending, and there was still hope that this ending could be changed. If an existence that surpasses the great saint appears in this world, he'll be able to suppress everything. His word is law and war will not descend, Yi Qinghan replied. There are no immortals in this world. The great sage is the end, the goddess of love replied coldly. Yi Qinghan's divine sense flashed and covered the heaven-imprisoning Tao scripture. He smiled proudly and said confidently, "The great sage is definitely not the end. There are immortals in this world." Amidst the lightning and thunder, Yi Qinghan suddenly felt enlightened. A ray of light exploded in his mind, followed by a burst of wild laughter. Ha 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 ha! I finally understand the meaning of the phrase, a frog at the bottom of a well. Back then, I didn't believe that there were immortals in this world, and I was sure that the great sage realm was the end. When I saw the material of the previous civilization, I still doubted its existence and could not accept it. Until now, when I see your attitude, I have a sudden realization. Yi Qinghan suddenly sat up and looked directly at the goddess of love. He said firmly, "Senior, just because you haven't seen it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist." The goddess of love looked coldly at Yi Qinghan and asked disdainfully, "If I tell you that I'll become an immortal tomorrow, would you believe me?" Yi Qinghan shrugged and nodded. "That's possible. Once you have an epiphany, you can become an immortal in an instant. Anything is possible." Ha ha ha! The goddess of love responded with a few cold laughs and did not say anything else. Yi Qinghan knew that he could not convince the goddess of love. If the goddess of love had the heaven-imprisoning Taoist scripture, but he did not, and she told him that there were immortals, he would probably think that she was talking nonsense. Seeing the two of them arguing, the atmosphere was not good. He quickly reminded them, "Void Palace number 9 is a useless weapon. Why do you care about what it says?" Yi Qinghan glanced at Yar Saint and replied, "Its existence is the reason. I believe that it has other uses." Just as Yi Qinghan said, Void Palace number 9 was not only used for defense and attack. It also had a terrifying skill, which was analysis. If an upper-level cultivator were to cultivate a powerful saint technique, the profound mysteries would be so profound that the upper-level cultivator would not be able to understand it even if they scratched their head. However, Void Palace number 9 could break it down and analyze it, reducing the complexity to simplicity, allowing the upper-level cultivator to comprehend it to the small success stage in just a few days. In the Goddess of Love's dojo, spirit chi and elements were densely packed, and spirit plants were everywhere. Lin Wuqian walked on the path and looked at the dojo. It was basically unrealistic to want to find the Goddess of Love's insights here. Only God knew where she kept them. "Little divine bird, I'm counting on you," Lin Wutian said helplessly. No time. The little divine bird stood arrogantly on Lin Wutian's shoulder. It seemed that it was unhappy that it did not get Void Palace number 9. Lin Wutian was speechless. The little divine bird looked at Lin Wutian with disdain and said disdainfully, "You're so stingy. I won't tell you even if I find the insights." Lin Wutian hugged his head and sighed. What kind of spirit pet was this? It was simply a spoiled ancestor. What do you want? I'll give it to you. You help me find the goddess of love's insights, Lin Wutian said helplessly. The little divine bird's eyes lit up. It could not wait to get into action. It said flatteringly, "Find her insights and let me comprehend it. I also want to cultivate to become a sage." Lin Wutian patted his head and smiled bitterly. "As long as you can cultivate to become a sage, I have no problem." Whoosh, the little divine bird flew into the sky and disappeared above the clouds. It looked down at the small secret realm. It was extremely fast. Its eyes were like stars, but they were full of greed and desire. "Ha ha, a sage, I'm coming!" Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The little divine bird shuttled around the dojo crazily. It was getting faster and faster. It could tell whether there were treasures in a place with just a glance. The dojo was not small. The divine bird shuttled around for several days. Finally, it stopped in a valley full of birds and flowers. The elements here were particularly rich, and there was a wisp of love in the air. The little divine bird sniffed and said excitedly, "It should be here." Lin Wutian opened his eyes wide with excitement. He looked around sneakily. He felt that this test was too easy. Dig 3 feet into the ground. There's enough time. Lin Wutian rolled up his sleeves and was ready to work. "Brute! Watch me." The little divine bird mocked him disdainfully. It twitched its beak and flew to some corners. The little divine bird was very talented. It was especially sensitive to divine treasures. It only took a moment to find a wooden box. There were runes on it. It could not be opened without the goddess of love. Lin Wutian reached out and took the wooden box with a smile. He was very nice to the little divine bird. "Let's go." Lin Wutian waved his hand and took the little divine bird away. It only took 10 days. There was still a long time before the test began. Lin Wutian walked out with the wooden box. The goddess of love's eyes twitched. She thought, "Where did this guy come from?" He completed the first test. It shows that he is indeed powerful. He took away the void maze for the second test. The third test only took 10 days. The goddess of love could not understand or accept it. But Lin Wutian did complete it. "Senior, I have it. Please take a look." Lin Wutian bowed and handed over the wooden box. A smile finally appeared on the goddess of love's devilish face. She reached out to take the wooden box and said, "The third test has been completed. For the fourth test, you have to use 15 years to comprehend it to the small success realm. These are all my techniques, including the Eye of Destruction, which can make a saint self-destruct. I am the only one who has succeeded in cultivating this technique. Even the GD did not succeed in cultivating it. If you have the ability, then comprehend the Eye of Destruction as well." Chapter 2133. Yi Qinghan watched as the goddess of love opened the wooden box and gave Lin Wutian a saint's scripture. He was overjoyed. As long as Wutian enters the saint realm first, the crazy sect will have nothing to worry about. Only then can I create a true supreme of the same level, surpassing the 9-star saint and reaching the immortal celestial realm, Yi Qinghan thought to himself. This was exactly what he wanted. Every step Yi Qinghan took required careful planning. One wrong step, one hurried step, and it would lead to complete failure. The immortal celestial realm was like looking at flowers in the fog. It could be seen but could not be sought. The goddess of love seemed to have the intention of nurturing him. Not only did she pass on her knowledge and secret techniques to Lin Wutian, but she also gave him her knowledge and cultivation court. Yar Saint looked at it and felt even more respect and sympathy for his great-grandmother. You can cultivate in the court. If there is anything you do not understand, you can ask me, the goddess of love said indifferently. Lin Wutian respectfully took the scripture and knowledge of the saints and thanked the goddess. Yi Qinghan pulled Lin Wutian aside and took out the elixir. He also took out 50,000 Holy Spirit stones and gave them to him. He said softly, Wutian, the Holy Spirit stones will be used to activate the 9th Void Palace. Take this elixir first. When you reach the Saint Realm, the crazy sect will have a place. The Shrouding Sky secret realm will be our next target. Master. Lin Wutian looked at Yi Qinghan gratefully. The crazy sect had left him only one elixir, but Yi Qinghan still gave it to him without hesitation. Even his own son might not be like this. Yi Qinghan patted Lin Wutian's shoulder and smiled. For the next 10,000 years or even 100,000 years, you will be under a lot of pressure. The crazy sect needs a saint. As for me, I do not have the opportunity yet. Only you can do it. Lin Wutian stood up straight and said respectfully, as long as I am alive, the crazy sect will definitely occupy the Shrouding Sky secret realm. Yi Qinghan smiled indifferently. Anyone could fight the insane sect, but he was more at ease with Lin Wutian. Only then would he have the time to comprehend the supremes of the same level, perfecting every detail to perfection. Go. 15 years later, we will head to the Oshi Holy Land. Yi Qinghan said calmly. Lin Wutian returned to the dojo of the Goddess of Love. The Goddess of Love also stayed behind to support Lin Wutian. She wanted him to reach the minor accomplishment realm in 15 years. But then, the Goddess of Love was stunned. Lin Wutian opened the 9th Void Palace and placed the Saint's Sutra and his insights on the console. He was ready to comprehend it, but the little elf suddenly appeared and looked at the Saint's Sutra. She used numbers and simple words to analyze the Saint's Sutra. Every step appeared on the screen. Everything became simple, just like drinking water and eating. There was no suspense at all. Lin Wutian was also a little dumbfounded. He did not expect Void Palace number 9 to use numbers and words to deduce the steps of cultivating the Sage Sutra. It is quite complicated, but it is not so complicated that it cannot be deduced and analyzed, the little elf said calmly. Lin Wutian and the Goddess of Love's foreheads were full of cold sweat. Was Void Palace number 9 really a useless weapon? Obviously not. Its function might not have been very useful in the previous civilization, but in this era, it was simply a celestial item. The little divine bird was wild with joy. It clearly followed the steps to cultivate. Its cultivation speed was even faster than that of a demon like Yi Qinghan. Lin Wutian did not need to say anything. He followed the steps to cultivate. It took him about a year to replicate 80% of the Goddess of Love's cultivation. Only the Eye of Destruction was left. Lin Wutian relied on his own talent and resources to push his cultivation level to the Saint Realm. But he was not in a hurry to swallow the elixir and directly advance to the Saint Realm. Instead, he put the cultivation method and insights of the Eye of Destruction on the console, hoping that Void Palace number 9 could also analyze it. Whoosh, whoosh. Rows of numbers were analyzing the Eye of Destruction at an extremely fast speed. Soon, the entire screen was covered by numbers and steps, but the final result was still not analyzed. After a long time, Void Palace number 9 almost crashed on the spot. The cultivation method of the Eye of Destruction was extremely difficult to deduce with numbers and step. Half a day later, the little elf in Void Palace number 9 appeared on the screen and said tiredly, "To cultivate the Eye of Destruction, you need a pure heart, origin blood and an extremely strong mind. None of these can be missing." "You can get tired too?" Lin Wutian asked in surprise. "Don't you get tired?" The elf in Void Palace number 9 retorted. Lin Wutian shrugged, indicating that he could not answer. Let me tell you something. You have a pure heart. The origin blood is in this goddess body. As long as she is willing, you only need to cultivate a strong will to cultivate the eye of destruction. Alright. I need to restart it. The calculation method of the eye of destruction is making me operate it too quickly. I can't take it anymore. After the little elf finished speaking, the screen flashed and then returned to darkness. After a long time, it restarted. The 1,000 Holy Spirit stones that Lin Wutian had put into the energy slot were all absorbed. This was a real glutton. No wonder the previous civilization said that it was a useless weapon. It consumed so much just to analyze the data. If one wanted to rely on it to attack or defend, even the Holy Land would not be able to withstand it for 3 to 5 days. The goddess of love thought for a moment, then took out a few drops of essence blood and gave them to Lin Wutian. Lin Wutian quickly entered a state of cultivation. He condensed a strong mind and continued to break through until he successfully cultivated his mind to the threshold of cultivating the eye of destruction. Only then did he officially cultivate the eye of destruction. 15 years passed in the blink of an eye. Colorful clouds floated in the sky above the land of love. The light was faintly discernible, but it did not condense. If a saint was here, he would definitely be able to guess that this was the prelude to the saint's path. During these 15 years, Yi Qinghan had been painstakingly cultivating the occult secret arts of the West in the holy city of love. He had cultivated his mind to the upper realm and controlled several elements. Each element had been cultivated to the lesser realm. Yarshing had wasted these 15 years in vain. She had no idea how far Lin Wutian had cultivated the saint techniques during these 15 years. She was very nervous. Just when the 15 years were up, Yarshing and Lin Wutian rushed to the goddess of love's dojo and waited anxiously. At this moment, the world suddenly shone brightly. Holy light covered the 9 heavens, and the multicolored light appeared together. This was the symbol of a saint's ascension. Lin Wutian had become a saint. Yi Qinghan was ecstatic. The sect of ecstasy finally had a saint of its own, and his cultivation would definitely not lose to existences like Xiahou He and the chess master. Ha ha ha! Yi Qinghan laughed out loud, clenched his fists and shouted, "The heavens have treated my sect of ecstasy well." At this moment, the little divine bird rushed out of the dojo unwillingly and shouted, "Dad, come out! Ask your boss to give me an elixir. I also want to become a saint." Yi Qinghan looked at the little divine bird's terrifying aura, and his hair stood on end. His pupils shrank, and he could not understand how this little guy had cultivated to this level. Has it been 15 years? How can a little bird cultivate to the saint realm in 15 years? Yarshing asked in surprise. The divine bird also ran out, looking confused. It trembled and asked, "How did you cultivate to this level?" "I've been cultivating for so long, and I'm only at the lower realm." "Ah! Oh God, why are you so cruel to me?" Chapter 2134. The divine bird roared, and the little divine bird stretched out its claws to ask for the elixir. The atmosphere was lively. Yi Qinghan was shocked. He couldn't understand how Lin Wutian had managed to reach the saint plane in just 15 years. Lin Wutian was at most a gifted genius, but how had the little divine bird managed to reach the saint plane? Elixir! Elixir! I want the elixir! The little divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan expectantly. Yi Qinghan was speechless. He said, "I don't have any more elixirs. Wutian is your boss now. Ask him if you have any problems in the future." Lin Wutian's aura was full. The clouds above the sky were covered with light. The pressure of a saint could not be restrained. The sword aura was so pure that even the goddess of love felt the pressure. Whoosh! The first thing Lin Wutian did after becoming a saint was to kneel in front of Yi Qinghan and kowtow respectfully. He said, Thank you, master, for treating me like your own son all these years. Yi Qinghan didn't expect Lin Wutian to kneel on the spot. Before he could stop him, the light in the sky suddenly condensed into lightning. In an instant, it shattered the void and hit his head. Bang! Crack! Crack! Yi Qinghan was penetrated by the lightning. Smoke and fragrance came out of his body. Even his protective clothing was shattered into powder. His yin and yang 8 trigrams Taoist robe was stimulated. The holy golden body exuded a fragrance. He spat out a mouthful of smoke. He felt that his body was not his anymore. He fell to the ground and looked at the sky innocently. Lin Wutian had become a saint. Apart from heaven and the great saint, who would dare to accept the eternal kneel of a saint? Whoever kneeled would be unlucky. Even heaven would not agree. Lin Wutian was shocked. He quickly got up and helped Yi Qinghan up. He looked innocent and asked, "Master, are you okay?" Yi Qinghan's eyes were misty. He was very angry. He raised his hand slightly and said, "Get out of my way. You got me killed." Lin Wutian quickly let go of Yi Qinghan and stepped aside. He was afraid that he would hurt Yi Qinghan. Bang! Yi Qinghan fell heavily to the ground and grimaced in pain. PSSH, Yarshing laughed wildly. He never thought that Yi Qinghan would be in such a humiliating situation. The goddess of love covered her cherry lips with a smile. She was also amused by the unlucky Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan slowly got up. This lightning was even more terrifying than God's punishment. He had almost fainted the moment he had been struck. His hands were trembling as he pointed at Lin Wutian and said, "If you kneel before me again, I will beat you to death." Lin Wutian felt very wronged. He wanted to express his gratitude, but he didn't expect that he would end up harming Yi Qinghan instead. The goddess of love smiled. After attaining the position of a saint, other than the great sage and the firmament, even their parents are not allowed to kneel. Otherwise, they will be struck by lightning. Lin Wutian still wanted to explain, but he was interrupted by Yi Qinghan. "You don't have to explain so much. Just tell me, how did you cultivate to the eternal saint realm in 15 years? Even if you can, your talent is extremely abnormal. How did this little guy do it?" Yi Qinghan asked curiously. Lin Wutian was a little confused. He didn't know how to explain. The goddess of love didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She said, "Void Palace number 9 broke down all the mysteries of my cultivation method into steps and data. Even the Eye of Destruction was analyzed. This is equivalent to copying all my abilities." Yi Qinghan's pupils shrank. He asked in surprise, "Doesn't that mean that the eccentric sect can copy saints infinitely?" Lin Wutian smiled bitterly and said, "The consumption is too great. A simple data analysis consumes thousands of celestial holy stones in a few days. It also needs to be maintained. In 15 years, it has consumed 30,000 celestial holy stones." Yi Qinghan was speechless. He finally understood why it was called a useless weapon. Even a saint couldn't withstand such consumption. At this moment, the little divine bird went crazy and roared, "Are you done? Who's going to be responsible for my elixir?" The divine bird looked at Yi Qinghan pitifully and begged, "Boss, for the sake of my loyalty, let number 9 of the Void Palace help me cultivate to the saint realm." Yi Qinghan was about to go crazy. He couldn't afford this kind of consumption. 30,000 celestial holy stones. He only had that much. "I don't have any elixir. Let your boss take care of it. As for opening Void Palace number 9, it's not a problem. But I don't have any saint scriptures for you to cultivate." "Let's talk about it when I have one," Yi Qinghan said helplessly. The goddess of love's saint scriptures were not available to just anyone. Yi Qinghan couldn't be so thick-skinned as to steal someone else's secret technique. Whoosh! The clouds were covered in light. Heaven and earth roared. The blessing of the heavens shook the sky for billions of miles. In an instant, the other holy lands in the distance could see the strange movements and phenomena in the heavens. Someone has become a saint again? Many people looked up at the sky with some shock in their eyes. In just a few hundred years, 3 saints had been born. Since when was it so easy to become a saint? The eternal saints of the East were shocked and looked at the sky. They were most familiar with the aura of a saint. There's another eternal saint in the West. What a powerful aura of Tao. This saint must be very powerful. The 2 eternal saints of the Xiaohou sacred land were shocked. They stood up and looked to the west. In the territory of the goddess of love, the goddess looked at Lin Wutian and Yi Qinghan and said faintly, "Are you going to hold the heaven worship ceremony or visit the Supreme Emperor before holding the ceremony?" Lin Wutian looked at Yi Qinghan. If this kind of ceremony was held in the Oshi sacred land, it would benefit the Oshi sacred land. This was because most of the creatures who participated in the heaven worship ceremony were Westerners. There were very few young experts from the East. It was even more impossible for the people of the arrogant sect to come. After all, it was too far away. Previously, the heaven worship ceremony of Xiahou He and the chess sovereign were mostly attended by Eastern experts. Now that the Oshi sacred land had also come, the younger generation of the Oshi sacred land would definitely take a step forward. Yi Qinghan licked his teeth and said faintly, "Let's go and visit the Supreme Emperor first. This heaven worship ceremony is a meeting gift for the Supreme Emperor." Yar Saint was overjoyed. The heaven worship ceremony was very important. For so many years, there had not been a heaven worship ceremony since the 4 saints had attained their Tao. Therefore, the younger generation of the Oshi sacred land was far inferior to those of the East. This time there was finally an opportunity. The goddess of love nodded silently and waved her hand to sweep the 3 away. The stars moved and they crossed the sacred land continuously. Even though the saints were at the peak of their speed, it still took a long time to cross her territory. The 4 of them traveled all the way, taking turns with Lin Wutian. It took them 3 years to reach the hinterland of the Oshi sacred land. The sacred city of the Oshi sacred land was close to the far west. No wonder the Holy Empire could not invade here. It was too far. At this time, the sacred city's Supreme Emperor Training Hall was at the top of the Emperor Mountain. A vicissitude of life looked all the way from the goddess of love's territory to the sacred city. Who has advanced to the position of a saint? That's impossible. The immortal elixir is still on the way and has not been delivered to me. Who can advance to the position of a saint without relying on the immortal elixir? The old man murmured. Time passed. It was not until Yi Qinghan and the others entered the sacred city that the old man saw the appearance of the 4 people. They are Eastern cultivators. How can they advance to the position of a saint in my Oshi sacred land? Aren't they afraid that this old man will suppress them on the spot? The old man clenched his fists slightly and stared at the goddess of love beside Yi Qinghan. A glimmer of light appeared in his eyes. Even this girl has appeared. Who are these 2 Eastern cultivators? The old man's identity was obvious. He was the Supreme Emperor, the Supreme Saint. The goddess of love led the 3 of them all the way to the Mount Emperor Dojo and climbed up the Mount Emperor. Chapter 2135. The Zhidi Mountain was incomparably majestic. There was actually a small sun hanging in the sky, completely condensed from the light element. Wind, fire, thunder, lightning, metal, wood, water, fire, and earth elements were all around, forming ancient immortal trees. The Zenith Emperor Mountain was filled with the majesty of a saint. Those who could survive here were all descendants of the Zenith Emperor. Hundreds of dojos covered the entire mountain, forming a spiral path. The 4 of them were respectful. This was an audience with the Zenith Emperor, and they did not dare to have any thoughts of blasphemy. Come directly to the Chaos Dojo. A voice came from the top of the mountain. It was majestic, ancient, and contained an arrogant will. The goddess of love was shocked. She led the three of them to the top of the mountain. The Chaos Dojo was at the top of the mountain. The land formed from the elements covered an area of 10 miles. It was like a city hanging in the sky. The four of them walked up the stone steps to the Chaos Dojo. There was a huge training ground in the dojo. Other than an old man standing at the edge of the dojo, there was no one else. The old man was dressed in a white robe that had already been simplified. He looked like an ordinary old man. His hands were pressed on the stairs as he looked at the ground. The entire training field was open air, and the sky was filled with stars. It was indescribably beautiful. Yi Qinghan looked at the old man from afar. It was as if he was looking at an immortal. His old, hunched back was filled with majesty. Very powerful. The heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage's aura is also very restrained. However, he is like a real mortal. This Zenith Emperor, on the other hand, I dare not blaspheme him. The two of them are different. I can't tell who is stronger, but they are both more terrifying than the Eternal Saint. Yi Qinghan muttered to himself as he followed behind the goddess of love. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, the goddess of love's dress swayed. Her aura was otherworldly. She was even more captivating under the starry sky. Her long dress flashed with starlight and dragged on the ground. She was like a fairy. As they got closer and closer to the Holy Emperor turned around. Although his skin was wrinkled, one could still see the magnificence of his youth. His eyes were filled with wisdom, and his hair was completely white. It was unknown how long he had lived in this world. Emperor Absolute Saint looked at Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian. His eyebrows twitched as if he knew who Yi Qinghan was, but not Lin Wutian. You actually have the aura of the Taiji Immortal Canon. Are you from the Sky-Reaching School? The Holy Emperor looked at Yi Qinghan in shock. He then looked at the Goddess of Love and did not understand. The Goddess of Love should hate the Holy Empire the most, followed by the Heavenly Grandmaster Church. This was because the Heavenly Grandmaster Grand Sage personally told him not to interfere with the Holy Empire and the Daluo Astral World. This led to the destruction of the Daluo Astral World and the disappearance of the 9-star sage. The Goddess of Love did not kill Yi Qinghan. The Goddess of Love knelt in front of the Holy Emperor and said respectfully, "Granddaughter Universal Love, Saint greets Grandpa. Your Saint greets the Great Ancestor." Your Saint also knelt respectfully. Yi Qinghan, the sect leader of the insane sect, greets the Great Sage Emperor. Yi Qinghan knelt on one knee and cupped his fists in Eastern etiquette. Lin Wutian, the second-generation disciple of the insane sect, greets the Great Sage Emperor. Lin Wutian knelt on both knees and was extremely respectful. The Holy Emperor's mouth twitched. He did not understand what was going on with the insane sect. The disciple's cultivation was stronger than the sect leader. Yi Qinghan clearly had the aura of the Taiji Immortal Canon on him. What the hell was this insane sect? He had never heard of it before. Moreover, there was a Saint Realm cultivator. How come I have never heard of the insane sect? Logically speaking, both of your cultivations are not bad. I should know that you lead this so-called insane sect. Emperor Absolute Saint frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan smiled and stood up. He bowed and said, "It is normal for the great sage to not know about the insane sect. We come from a small region and have been in the eternal world for less than 10,000 years. Our sect is weak and not worth mentioning." Humph! Emperor Absolute Saint snorted with a disdainful sneer on his face. He then said, "If a sect with a saint is weak, then what are the 3,000-strong sects and the 100 great clans?" Yi Qinghan laughed awkwardly and replied, "Great Sage Emperor, you've misunderstood me. This poor disciple of mine has just broken through the eternal realm and stepped into the sage realm. The Kuang sect was indeed very weak before. It did not even have an official territory. The Holy Emperor didn't want to listen to Yi Qinghan's nonsense anymore. Yi Qinghan was too modest and hypocritical. If Lin Wutian's talent was considered poor, then what was the rest of the world? Let's get straight to the point. What do you want from me? Emperor Absolute Saint frowned and asked. Yi Qinghan was shocked and immediately became spirited. He cupped his fists and said, "Great Sage Emperor, this junior has two requests. The first is to bring my disciple to your sacred land to propose a marriage alliance with Saintess Yi." Before Yi Qinghan could finish his sentence, Emperor Absolute Saint said, "What if I object?" Yi Qinghan smiled confidently. "Great Sage, please don't be in a hurry to express your opinion. Please allow me to state the betrothal gift. It won't be too late to refuse." Emperor Absolute Saint looked at Yi Qinghan curiously. He wanted to know what kind of betrothal gift he was going to give. In addition to the immortal pill that I gave to Saintess Yi, the insane sect is willing to give 50,000 heavenly sacred stones as a betrothal gift. Other resources will be calculated separately. As long as the great sage agrees, everything is negotiable. Yi Qinghan said in a deep voice. 50,000 heavenly sacred stones and an immortal pill. Such a betrothal gift was unprecedented. Ancestor, I am sincere with beyond heavens. Saintess Yi was afraid that Emperor Absolute Saint would refuse again. She quickly straightened her body and said anxiously. Emperor Absolute Saint glanced coldly at Saintess Yi. The will in his eyes was self-evident. The goddess of love also reached out and pulled Saintess Yi's sleeve, indicating that she should not speak nonsense. A very tempting betrothal gift. Let's put the first request aside and talk about the second one. Emperor Absolute Saint said lightly. My insane sect wants to occupy the Shrouding Sky's secret realm. I ask for the great sage's support. Yi Qinghan looked firmly at Emperor Absolute Saint, indicating that he was not joking. Ha 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 ha! Emperor Absolute Saint laughed wildly. His eyes were full of ridicule and sarcasm. He stared at Yi Qinghan and sneered. You are very arrogant, very arrogant. Do you know how much it costs to occupy one of the top 10 secret realms? Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Absolute Saint and thought for a long time. He said in a deep voice, as long as you are willing to let Saintess Yi marry Lin Wutian and publicly support my insane sect, we will be able to occupy the Shrouding Sky's secret realm. Why? What makes you think you can compete with the other Holy Lands? Lin Wutian, a rookie who just stepped into the Eternal Realm? I'm afraid that if you occupy the Shrouding Sky's secret realm today, you will be uprooted by the Holy Empire the next day. Do you want me to be laughed at by the world? Emperor Absolute Saint questioned. Because I have the support of 3 great sages. In 100 years, my insane sect will have at least 3 more eternal sages. Wutian will be able to kill sages. Yi Qinghan's aura burst as he replied firmly. Chapter 2136. Yi Qinghan's aura was strong and firm. He needed the Shrouding Secret Realm to be the insane sect's base. Now that he was living under someone else's roof, he had a good relationship with the Eternal Sacred Land. What if the Holy Empire pressured him one day? Yi Qinghan looked at Emperor Sage with anticipation. He had no choice now. Whether Emperor Sage supported him or not, he had to carry out his plan. However, how could an Emperor Supreme Saint casually get involved in a random war? If he casually told the world that he supported Yi Qinghan to take over the Shrouding Secret Realm, wouldn't he lose face if he couldn't fulfill his promise no matter how strong the Holy Empire was? Emperor Sage didn't want to lose face because the Holy Empire was very close to the Shrouding Secret Realm, but the Oshi Sacred Land was very far away. If they fought, the Oshi Sacred Land would be at a disadvantage. However, Yi Qinghan said that there were 3 great saints supporting him. Emperor Sage was surprised. There were only a few great saints. The Holy Empire's Sacred Lord couldn't support Yi Qinghan. At most, it would be the Heavenly Master Great Saint. Including himself, there were only two. Where did the third come from? The one from the ghost god race wants to support you? Have you seen him? Emperor Sage questioned. Yi Qinghan shook his head and replied, I haven't seen him. He won't support me. He might even oppose me. The third great saint isn't any of them. She's an enemy of the Holy Empire. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. So, she's your friend. It's up to you if you're willing to work with her. Emperor Sage looked at Yi Qinghan indifferently. After a long time, he shook his head and said, I can't believe you. You're too weak. Come talk to me when you reach the Great Saint realm. I won't support you in taking over the shrouding secret realm. I won't marry Yar Saint to the insane sect either. Emperor Sage was too vigilant. He couldn't even marry a saintess with such a gift. The Holy Emperor's attitude was so firm that the Yar Saint did not dare to refute. Yi Qinghan was helpless. The goddess of love knew a little about Yi Qinghan and Lin Wutian's background. Not to mention Yi Qinghan, even Lin Wutian would not have to worry for the rest of his life with the help of the 9th virtual palace. As long as there were elixirs, the crazy sect could have as many sages as they wanted. Now, the Guangzhong sect was facing a difficult time. If they could not help them in their hour of need, they would not need to cooperate in the future. The goddess of love stood at the side and thought for a long time. Then she said, Grandfather, I hope that you can support this marriage. Not for other reasons, but because I hope that the lovers will be able to get married. It doesn't matter whether you support the Guangzhong in occupying the Shrouding Sky secret realm or not. At most, you can remain silent. It would be best if they can occupy it. If they can't, we will bring Yar back. The Holy Emperor looked at the goddess of love with an apologetic look in his eyes. Back then, because he had hesitated for a few months, the goddess of love's life was bleak, and she was unwilling to step out of the goddess of love's territory. Now that she had come out for this matter, it seemed like her attitude was very firm. The Holy Emperor turned his head to look at the starry sky and the earth. He did not look at the goddess of love. After a long time, he asked, Do you sympathize with the Yar Saint and support her, or do you support the crazy sect? Both, the goddess of love said firmly. The goddess of love said firmly, Lin Wutian used my secret method to reach the saint realm. I can't say much about his background. I can only tell you that he cultivated from the upper realm to the eternal saint realm in only 15 years. You can imagine his talent. This sentence made the Holy Emperor's eyelids twitch. He could not help but stare at Lin Wutian. 15 years. Although the Holy Emperor was a supreme sage, he could not accept this fact. Lin Wutian took a deep breath and cupped his fist. Holy Emperor, I beg you to agree to the marriage. At most, the crazy sect will not occupy the Shrouding Sky secret realm in the name of the Oshi sacred land. We do not need your support. You can remain silent. We can take over the Shrouding Sky secret realm. The Holy Emperor thought for a moment and replied, I'll think about it first. You hold the heaven worship ceremony in the Oshi sacred land. What do you think? The heaven worship ceremony was very important. It was to cultivate the younger generation of the Oshi sacred land. Such an action was equivalent to benefiting all the young kings of the Oshi sacred land. Lin Wutian looked at Yi Qinghan. When he saw him nod, he replied, I will follow the Supreme Sage's will. The Holy Emperor smiled and nodded. Good grandson, I'll leave this matter to you. Inform the heaven worship ceremony to be held in 10 years. Open the teleportation array between the Oshi sacred land and the holy city. Open the green channel for all the talented young people and let them participate in the heaven worship ceremony. The goddess of love's face finally lit up. She bowed and said, Thank you, grandfather, for your approval. I'll do it now. The Holy Emperor glanced at Yi Qinghan and the others. He said to Yi Qinghan, Sect Master Yi, I won't keep you. You have my token. You can go anywhere. As for Lin Wutian and Yer, you two can stay. Yi Qinghan took the Holy Emperor's token and left with the Goddess of Love. Walking down Emperor Mountain, the Goddess of Love looked at Yi Qinghan and whispered, "I can only help you this much. The rest is up to you." Yi Qinghan smiled. "Thank you for your words. I will definitely go to the heaven-sealing prison again." The Goddess of Love didn't say much. She only reminded him, "This token is the highest order of the Oshi Empire. Seeing it is like seeing the Emperor. You can go anywhere, but it's best if you don't go to the ancestral land. It will make you look like you don't know what's good for you." Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, "Goddess, you underestimate me. I won't be so ungrateful. You can go ahead. I'll just walk around." The Holy Emperor's city was vast and boundless. It was dotted with stars, and the spirit energy was especially lively. Because the people of the Oshi sacred land weren't good at using spirit energy, they focused on the element. At night, the Holy Emperor's city had a different flavor. Yi Qinghan strolled on the street. It was already late at night, and there were no pedestrians at all. At this moment, the divine bird popped out and said excitedly, "Boss, I found the location of the Spring of Life. It's so rich in life energy." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed. He then restrained his greed and warned, "This is a crucial time for me to negotiate with the Oshi sacred land. Don't talk nonsense. Don't go to the location of the Spring of Life. Otherwise, I'll suppress you forever." When the divine bird heard this, it immediately shrank its head and didn't dare to say anything else. Although Yi Qinghan liked the Spring of Life, he still needed to be rewarded by the Holy Emperor. Otherwise, the Holy Emperor would be disgusted. He wouldn't go for wool and come home shorn. "Come, let's find an inn to rest for a while." Yi Qinghan led the divine bird through the streets and found a sleepless inn. The money here was also faith money, so it wasn't difficult. Yi Qinghan went to the room and began to secretly cultivate. He used the accumulation of these years to continue comprehending the sacred finger. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.